the duration of this case. As soon as I did provide them an address, the onslaught, the attacks, calling people at their state jobs,
Right,
work jobs,
right.
attack.
Right.
Threats.
I wouldn't have given it to him.
It was an uncle who, it was a family address just to, get.
Yeah, but so what? It doesn't matter.
It was a test, and they failed. Yes, because as soon as they had it, that's within an hour. Those extortionists, what are they called? Embezzlers, probation
Right.
department,
Right.
calling, trying to get a piece of that pie.
Yeah, but so that's why you don't give it to them. And you don't claim you're there because then you're basically that's dishonest. You see what I'm saying? I wouldn't give them one, and I wouldn't tell them it's like a birthday. You can give them a fake birthday, but it's none of their business. I tell them it's none of your business. I have no first-hand knowledge of it. It's hearsay. It's none of your damn business.
After that, he reproached me for not giving one.
Well,
that
there
he
you go.
can say, well, we have nowhere to serve you. You're damn right you don't.
Why would
It's
I
none of
want
your
to
business.
Exactly. He said, yes, it is our business.
Well,
I'm not hungry.
so are you engaged in war crimes here?
You're funny.
So that's where I go with it, because that's exactly what they're doing. He's a military commissioner, so you're a military commissioner. I see you're wearing your military uniform, and are you engaged in war crimes here? Because it looks like to me you are, and including a denial of due process, which is a war crime, and coercing information from me, and persecuting me for my political beliefs.
And how about
you
res
just start.
judicata, bringing the same thing twice that he already dismissed on the first round, calling it a different name round two.
Well, there you go. Anyways, so that's what this one's going to be about: is build a case for war crimes.
All right, guys.
She's pretty good.
Yes,
You gotta.
I do.
Something.
I do. I have a battery.
Nelson, does the ice maker in this fridge work?
Negative.
Oh, I was wondering.
Nelson did.
Okay, no biggie.
You lock the house
This
up?
is,
By accident. Those habit. You tell
Gotcha.
it's open now.
this is
Okay.
Hey, if you want ice, I have some next door.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you a piece.
We gotta keep you happy, Glenn.
If you want ice, just go down the beach.
Gage, pass that to
Oh.
Thanks.
You want ice?
Getting over that.
Let me go see how much how low it is on ice.
Okay.
Does anybody know what happened to Shane? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or his belongings in the room.
This is still here, so I don't think he went anywhere.
What happened to your buddy Daniela?
Daniela?
How you doing?
I
Well,
just announced it, but my bad.
are you the professor?
I'm Glenn. That's
Glenn?
correct. I wouldn't call myself a professor, but that sounds like a title of nobility.
Professor.
So I am
That's Gilligan.
just the guy.
There you go. Gee. Nice.
So yeah, I am the one that does the YouTube videos and all that stuff. I don't know if you've watched any of my YouTube videos.
Kangaroo Court?
Is that what it
Kangaroo
is?
Court?
Kangaroo court?
Kangaroo Court, yeah,
I
that's
recognize
some
the
of them.
voice.
Yeah.
Kangaroo Court 1 through 15.
Oh,
I've got a
Nice.
young son that tunes in. He likes that a lot. Yeah.
It's well, I've got like 400 YouTube videos up there,
oh wow.
and covering different topics.
Yeah.
I haven't done too much lately, just because I'm starting to run out of topics. You know.
Okay.
But so I'm doing mostly now stuff on war crimes, quite frankly, because that's what is going on. It's all martial law. And it's all war crimes, and they don't want you to figure out that there's war crimes, because the last time there was war crimes going on, there was a revolution, and so
In 1776 or in another
that's
country?
the one. That's the one. And you read the Declaration of Independence and the causes and necessities for taking up arms, and it's got war
Oh, we were
crimes.
there. We were there a while. Yeah, we were there a while ago. It's our responsibility. It says it right then and there.
That's right. It's our right, it's our duty to throw off such government. Well, throwing off in government is not something that's, gee, go away. You know, it's
No,
like,
it's
get the heck
actively-
out of here.
It's actively, exactly.
and so, you know, anyways.
Disobedience to tyranny is obedience to God. something like that.
No.
Disobedience. Disobedience to God.
Yeah.
Disobedience
The
to
tyranny is
is
obedience.
It's
to
obedience to God, that's right,
That's
that's
fine.
Jefferson's motto.
You wanna open a window?
Yeah.
So anyways, I guess I'll get going, people keep coming and going here, so anyways, this one's gonna be on building a case for war crimes. That one over here, Nelson had opened.
This one.
There you go.
Can I crack this a little bit, or it'll be too
No,
bright
it's
here?
the light.
No, leave
No,
that,
no,
it's, I need it
Yeah,
dark
the-
so that,
yeah.
the camera will pick up the screen.
Yeah, the top somehow stayed.
No, I think I'm actually gonna steal the seat right here. A little bit more comfortable for my fat ass.
So first of all, I'm not a liar. Well, I'm in a lawyer. Well, no, I'm in a liar. All lawyers are liars. If you understand what a lawyer does, they go into court and they say this guy did this and this guy did that, and they don't have any first-hand knowledge of anything. So then, by definition, they're liars. Anyways, you should never take my word for anything. You should always do your own research. I provided references to aid you in your research, and I don't know everything. I mean, I'll be the first one to admit. Matter of fact, my attitude is that when I stop learning, I'll be dead. And probably what will be happening, I believe in life after death, so I'll just be learning different things. Right? There are 4 types of people in the world you'll meet in your life. There's the people who try to wake up the slaves. There's the slave masters. There's the people who have no idea they're slaves. And there's the people who like being slaves. Which one are you? Do you really know for sure? If you can see through the illusion, then you are the solution. If the people don't know their basic rights and freedoms, then how can they know when or if their rights and freedoms are being infringed? And that is so true. Never forget the men who started this country were marijuana-growing, whiskey-drinking, tax-evading rebels who left their beds at night to shoot at the pigs.
Woo!
Hold on, I'm like,
If tyranny needs to gain a foothold, all tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Government is not reason, it is not eloquence, it is force. Like fire, it's a dangerous servant and a fearful master. Have you had enough yet? Patrick Henry, after witnessing a man flogged to death for refusing to take a license, came up with coined the phrase, give me liberty or give me death. So the question you have to ask yourself is, have you had enough yet? A lot of people haven't. They want more because you don't see bodies piled in the street of good people and bad people. So, if you understand what happened with a good example is the national anthem. Oh, say can you see that Star-Spangled Banner? Okay, that was an incident that Francis Scott Key was involved in a prisoner exchange, and he went to on one of the British vessels had some colonel with him, and I think it was the Baltimore Harbor, but I'm not sure. Anyways, it was some colonel was with them, and the colonel was going to be hostage for some prisoner that they wanted to get released, exchanged. And so the admiral says, sure, no problem, we can do a prisoner exchange, but in a few hours it's not going to matter. And the entire British Armada was sailing into the harbor. And so then what happened, what they didn't know, quite frankly, is many of the colonists had sunk their own vessels near the coastal areas to prevent the British Armada from getting in close. So they couldn't get in close to have accuracy that they wanted. And then the "Oh Say Can You See" is about the flag, because the flag was the banner, what everybody rallied to. And so they, it was the rockets and the fighting that went on all night. They were watching to see if the flag was still there. And in the morning, when it was all done, there was a pile of bodies there, because people had been running up, and the flag would get shot down, and somebody would run up and hold it up. So those are all people that basically said, I'd rather be dead than your slave.
Thank you for those people.
Well, that's back in the days when it's the land of the free and the home of the brave. Nowadays, it's home of the not so brave in many cases. Home of the cowards.
Home of,
Kittens.
home of the meek and the land of the indentured.
That's right.
Kittens.
Land of the slave and home of the feet. Going back to the feet.
So, anyways, and that's what I tell them. Is in my nasty grams. If you watch my, I've got some YouTube videos about intervention. Okay, intervention is a principle of international law, and basically what it says is that if they don't follow their own laws, then anything goes. And so I sent to every member of the U.S. Senate and every member of the U.S. House of Representatives, I sent them a certified letter because, and I did it by postal per queue, so it didn't cost me anything, right? Anyways, I sent them a letter, and it started off, it said something like, we both know that you have no intention of, normally I say I accept your oath of office, but we both know you have no intention of honoring your oath of office, so fuck your oath, you motherfucking son of a bitch. And then the next paragraph, it just kind of goes from there, okay? And so
Can you imagine the guy's face when he reads
so I tell them that I have never in my life breached the peace, but your pigs breach the peace all the time. And I tell them that if you or your pigs want a piece of me, you just name the date, time, and location. I'll come armed. We'll settle it for once and for all. You motherfucking son of a bitch. And I just that's the way. You ought to watch the video because I sent one to every member of the U.S. Senate and every member of the U.S. House of Representatives, and so I'm sure they
love that.
yeah. Well, that's what it comes down to is these pigs wouldn't be getting away with doing what they're doing if every time they stopped somebody they got into a gunfight. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You want to stop me? We'll settle it right here and now. You see what I'm saying? And if every time it had happened about 3 times, and then they'd have to reevaluate. You and me, just you and me, buddy. Let's settle it right now.
And piggybacking off of that, you know what I've noticed? The places that have like the least amount of freedom and the most taxation, they have the strictest gun laws.
Yeah.
You know?
Of course. And that's one of the things I tell them. I tell them, after I tell them that if you want a piece of me, that you just name a date, time, and location, I'll come armed, we'll settle it for once and for all. I tell them, we both know that you have no intention of I know you'll never take me up on that because you're a coward. You'll never come and face me man to man. You'll send your low intelligence pigs out in packs so they can assault me in groups and sneak around and collect information about me. And I basically tell them, that's what I tell them. You see what I'm saying? You'll never come and face me man to man. Anyways, don't get me going. You're going to get me going.
I appreciate you.
So, anyways, now that's not to say we don't have good and honorable people too, because we do have good and honorable people, and that's what this slide is about, is the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. Sheriff Richard Mack has an organization and he's a really good guy, and so if they want to keep the peace, then we need people to keep the peace. But we just don't need these order follower Satanist thieves that are bar member Satanists, don't get me going, in their so-called courts and everything else.
Did
anyways,
you have for lunch?
Sorry?
It's fired. I said, what did you have for lunch? You're fired up. I love it.
Anyways, sometimes I just get going, you know.
And that's sriracha on the crab
But so,
cakes.
this is actually the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association's website, and it says, we can join the people and public service to establish key relationships which build critical foundations in restoring America, and that's true. I don't know how much you know about when the Soviet Union collapsed. That was in the 90s. I remember it. And what happened was the final thing, they were teetering but they hadn't really collapsed. What really was the death knell for them is they were machine gunning this in Berlin, where they had that wall and they had that no man's land, and people from East Germany every once in a while they'd try and run across that no man's land and they'd get machine gunned. And one day the guards just refused to do it. And so then one or two went across and got away with it. And the next thing you know, there's like hundreds. And then what happened is they started tearing down the wall. So, you know, that's what we need, is to educate our peace officers to the point that that they're decide not to play that game anymore, is what it comes down to. So this is Article 44 of the Libre Code. All wanton violence committed against persons against in the invaded country, all destruction of property not commanded by the authorized officer, all robbery, all pillage or sacking, even after taking a place by main force, all rape, wounding, maiming, or killing of such inhabitants are prohibited under the penalty of death, or such other severe punishment as may seem adequate for the gravity of the offense. A soldier, officer, or private, in the act of committing such violence and disobeying a superior ordering him to abstain from it, may be lawfully killed on the spot by such superior. And that's Article 44 of the Libre Code. And that's where they get their good faith that allows them to, and that's what we're talking about right here. This is, and every state has these kinds of statutes, okay? And if you remember in our last presentation, all statutes, codes, rules, and regulations are edicts under martial law. So this is another edict under martial law.
So basically, they're going against their oath takes this away from them, or this is what they hang their hat on to get away with the crap that they're doing, right?
That's what they use to get away with perjuring their oath.
Right.
Okay? They're following orders. And as long as they can claim good faith, saying, because there's so many brain dead idiots out there that want to be slaves, they don't know who's a slave and who isn't. You see what I'm saying?
We're just following orders.
So we're just following orders.
So
That's
we're-
right.
We're not liable.
That's right. And their bail priest buddies in the courts won't hold them liable. But having said that, there's other remedies under war crimes. Okay, you can still get money, you just can't get them thrown in jail.
Can you get them to stop doing the unlawful acts?
Well, if you get their money, that should put a stop to it pretty good. But you know, who knows? I mean, again, they screen them for low intelligence. Okay, there's court cases that talk about it. They don't want any of those people having too much brains. Okay, they want hired thugs, and so there's court cases that talk about that. So you know, again, you hire a thug. You know, there's just a bunch of mafia gangsters is what they are.
Like I said, the guy was a history teacher in a week. Patrolman, Barnegat Township, in a week.
Yeah, right.
I mean, how much walk did the guy know?
Yeah.
You know?
No, they give him a gun. Tell him to go out and assault people.
Right.
I think New York City's a
Right.
couple weeks and on the
Anyways,
It's crazy, man.
no evidence obtained by an officer or other person in violation of any provision of the constitutional laws of the state of Texas or the constitutional laws of the United States of America shall be admitted in evidence against the accused on the trial of any criminal case. It is an exception to the provisions of subsection A of this article that the evidence was obtained by a law enforcement officer, a LEO, acting in objective good faith reliance upon a warrant issued by a neutral magistrate based on probable cause. Well, is any of them neutral? Is there a real warrant? No, in both of those cases. And that's Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, evidence not to be used. And it's also found in federal statutes right here. A good faith reliance on a court warrant or order, a grand jury subpoena, a legislative authorization, or a statutory authorization, including a request of a governmental entity under Section 2703 of this title, a request of an investigative or law enforcement officer under Section 2518.7 of this title, or a good faith determination that Section 2511.3 of this title permitted the conduct complained of is a complete defense to any civil or criminal action brought under this chapter or any other law. So they want them to get off the hook, but there's still a remedy. There's still a remedy, even if they get their pig off the hook.
Wow.
Copies of these documents can be found in my private group at Yahoo called Administrating Your Public Servants. For a complete set of YouTube videos with private information, shares a DVD with over 50 searchable law dictionaries, and other books and forms, contact me privately at engineerwin@yahoo.com. Donations to support this work are appreciated. I prefer gold or silver coin, but as an extremely less desirable alternative, I can accept the IOUs, the Federal Reserve notes, the PayPal gifts, the checks, the money orders, the fake money, the military script. Send me an email for particulars. All Civil War states are under military occupation. Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Texas, Missouri, Tennessee, and Kentucky. All of the states in the territory conquered in the war with Mexico were under military occupation. Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, and Nevada. Dictation equals dictatorship, which means a military dictatorship. Law enforcement equals enforcing the martial law. That's why they're called law enforcement officers. They're enforcing the martial law.
What's up with the northern states?
Well, actually, I'm going to cover that coming up pretty quick,
Okay.
because they're under the law of emergency.
So it's different, actually.
So it's still martial law. Still martial law. It's because if you read the Libra Code, and remind me, I've got some Libra codes in my car, in my van. I'll bring them in, and if you read the Libra Code, there's a section in there that talks about it. When the southern states walked out of Congress in 1861, they ceased to have a quorum. Under the executive authority, martial law, Lincoln ordered Congress to reconvene. When the Supreme Court ruled against something Lincoln did, he ordered troops to the Supreme Court. And now, under Rule 45 of the Supreme Court rules, it says, all process of this court issues in the name of the President of the United States. Okay, so there's no separation of powers, period. It's a military dictatorship. All statutes, state or federal, passed prior to 1861 are lawful de jure statutes. All statutes, state or federal, passed after 1861 are martial law statutes. Two national governments exist, one to be maintained under the Constitution with all its restrictions, the other to be maintained by Congress outside and independently of that instrument. And that's U.S. Supreme Court, 1901. In 1871, Congress set up a corporation to operate as the government of the District of Columbia, and that's what you see operating today. It is an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act, March 9, 1933, 48 Stat 1, Public Law 89-719, declared by President Roosevelt being bankrupt and insolvent, House Joint Resolution 192, 73rd Congress in session, June 5, 1933, Joint Resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause, dissolve the sovereign authority of the United States and the official capacities of all United States governmental offices, officers, and departments, and is further evidence that the United States federal government exists today in name only. And that's taken from United States Congressional Record, March 9, 17, 1993. And on that same day, March 9, 1933, on that same day, since March 9, 1933, the United States has been in a state of declared national emergency. Under the powers delegated by these statutes, the President may seize property, organize and control the means of production, seize commodities, assign military forces abroad, institute martial law, seize and control all transportation and communication, regulate the operation of private enterprise, restrict travel, and in a plethora of particular ways, control the lives of all American citizens. Somebody want to close that window?
No, it's not. It's vibrating.
No, it's coming in from the window.
Here too. It's a machine going by.
A majority of the people of the United States have lived all their lives under emergency rule. For 40 years, freedoms and governmental procedures guaranteed by the Constitution have in varying degrees been abridged by laws brought into force by states of national emergency. And that's taken from the U.S. Senate Report 93-549 dated November 19, 1973. I have a YouTube video that goes through that report. Pentagon Inc., Google, YouTube, Facebook, Amazon, masquerading as private companies. It's all I mean, all companies, any corporation is a agent of the government. That's why they call them agencies. It's incorporated. When it's incorporated into the government. And there's statutory citations, not in the U.S., but there's a Canadian one that I could show you that I don't have here. I have somewhere, but it says that all corporations are agencies, are agents of the Queen, and that's in Canada. So, I mean, that makes sense that all corporations here would be agents of the United States. Martial law extends to property and to persons, whether they are subjects of the enemy or aliens to that government. Okay, so it only applies to subjects of the enemy and aliens.
Len, did we already do this?
This was, some of these slides were in the last one.
Oh, okay.
Subjects or aliens and nobody else. It does not affect we the people. And why would anyone want to be a low-life scumbag U.S. citizen? If a military police officer is talking to you, then you are a subject. You are the enemy. And this is McCullough versus Maryland, U.S. Supreme Court, 1819. All subjects over which the sovereign power of the state extends are objects of taxation, but those over which it does not extend are exempt from taxation. This proposition may be pronounced as self-evident. It's obvious. The sovereignty of the state extends to everything which exists by its authority or its permission. Have you had enough yet? Patrick Henry witnessed a man flogged to death for refusing to take the license, and he coined the phrase, "Give me liberty or give me death." And, you know, so that's what it might come to. Hopefully it doesn't. If we can educate our peace officers, then hopefully it won't come to that, but that's what it might come to. The Congress shall have power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the other property belonging to the United States. So if you are subject to the regulations, you're property, you're a slave. And this is the Canadian Ownership and Control Determination Act. Owned means subject to the regulations. Again, if you are subject to the regulations, you are owned. You are a slave. 2 political jurisdictions. Every tree, living things, animal, people, plants, heaven, earth, universe, lawful and natural. And Lucifer's jurisdiction, the tree in the midst of the garden, fictional things, persons and corporations, domicile and resident, legal and political. The term resident and citizen of the United States is distinguished from a citizen of one of the several states in that the former is a special class of citizen created by Congress. The term citizen in the United States is analogous to the term subject in the common law. Civil rights under the 14th Amendment are for federal citizens, not state citizens. Federal citizens as parents have no right to the custody of their infant children except subject to the paramount right of the state. It is evident that they, U.S. citizens, have not the political rights which are vested in citizens of the states, are not constituency of any community in which is vested any sovereign power of government. Their position partakes more of the character of subjects than of citizens. They are subject to the laws of the United States but have no voice in its management. If they are allowed to make laws, the validity of these laws is derived from the sanction of the government in which they are not represented. Mere citizenship they may have, but the political rights of citizens they cannot enjoy. So if the U.S. citizens are allowed to make laws, it's only because they feel like it, right? Martial law affects chiefly the police and the collection of public revenue and taxes, whether imposed by the expelled government or by the invader, and refers mainly for the support and efficiency of the Army, its safety, and the safety of its operations. And that's Article 10 of the Libre Code. So again, all police are military police. And taxes, that's why taxes are, you have no rights. They just go ahead and take it. See what I'm saying? If they can presume you're one of the slaves, there's no discussion. They just take it. Contract. Do you feel you have no constitutional rights when it comes to income tax? It's because you don't. You're in a contract. All police are military police, FBI military police, city military police, state military police, Homeland Security military police, county military police. All police are military police. If they're talking to you, then you're a subject and you are the enemy. The real domestic terrorists, you are the enemy. Murdered by police, you are the enemy. We talked it over, and after investigating it ourselves, we decided we're not guilty. Beware violent street gangs, typical gang member, well organized, gang colors, gang identifier, heavily armed. Do not approach. Gang members are aggressive and notoriously violent. And so the people in Europe, and especially in France, are finding out these yellow vests are getting, some of them are getting pretty abused.
Is that a fanny pack he had on?
Sorry?
Was that a fanny pack? Around the
I
front middle
guess.
there?
Yeah, it kind of looked like it. The tyrant who, in order to hold his power, suppresses every superiority, does away with good men, forbids education and light, controls every movement of the citizens, and keeping them under a perpetual servitude, wants them to grow accustomed to baseness and cowardice, has his spies everywhere to listen to what is said in meetings, and spreads dissension and calumny among the citizens, and impoverishes them, is obliged to make war to keep his subjects occupied and impose on them permanent need of a chief. And I would say that Obama certainly qualified for a tyrant. Trump, I think he's trying to make a difference, and I think he has been making a difference, but it takes more than just him. We all got to be, stirring that pot, challenging things, educating our public servants. Military jurisdiction is two kinds. First, that which is conferred and defined by statute. Second, that which is derived by the common law of war. Military offenses under the statute law must be tried in the manner therein directed, but military offenses which do not come within statute must be tried and punished under the common law of war. The character of the courts which exercise these jurisdictions depends upon the local laws of each particular country. In the armies of the United States, the first is exercised by court-martial, while cases which do not come within the rules and articles of war or the jurisdiction conferred by statute on court-martial are tried by military commissions. And so there's no Article 3 judges. They're all military commissioners. Okay, and so I guarantee you, if you start pointing that out to them and telling them, telling them they're engaged in war crimes, you want my information, you're coercing information for me, that's a war crime. You see what I'm saying? It's none of your business. And so all statutes are in support of the martial law. All statutes apply to subjects only. There's two kinds of court proceedings, a court-martial and a military commission. There's a military commission right there. There's the commissioner, the so-called judge works for the state. The prosecutor works for the state. The police or witness works for the state. The vast majority of the disputes that the police initiate on behalf of their employer are also adjudicated by their employer, where the plaintiff, the judge, the antagonist, the police, and the only witness, also the police, all represent the same party, and since no corpus delicti, mens rea, or acts reus can be produced, doesn't technically qualify to be heard according to its own laws. The state, therefore, is indistinguishable from a criminal cartel, and it's martial law. They're a bunch of thieves and pirates. Oh, look at that, a kangaroo court. Give me liberty or give me death. Have you had enough yet? Patrick Henry, after he witnessed a man flogged to death for refusing to take a license. Give me liberty or give me death. International law rule. This is found on a book that you can find online. Do a search. Jurisdiction over federal areas within the states. Report for the Interdepartmental Committee for the Study of Jurisdiction over Federal Areas Within the States. Part 2. A text of the law of the legislative jurisdiction submitted to the Attorney General and transmitted to the President June 1957. And this is taken from pages 158 through 165. There's actually two parts of the book. This is in part 2. The first part, I think, is like about 400 pages, and the second part's about 600 pages. International law rule. So, think about it. New Jersey is a foreign nation to the District of Columbia. That's why it falls under international law. And New Jersey's under a military occupation. And martial law is the law of nations. Again, international law. Adopted for areas under federal legislative jurisdiction. Federalizes state civil law, including common law. The rule serves to federalize not only the statutory, but the common law of the state. State and federal venue discuss the civil laws effective in an area of exclusive federal jurisdiction or federal law. notwithstanding their derivation from state laws, and a cause arising under such laws may be brought in or removed to a federal district court under these sections. So, under martial law, once you talk about martial law and the fact that all statutes are edicts under martial law and all judges are military commissioners, then you could actually take any statute and bring it into federal court and tell them this is why it's jurisdiction here. And under there was a federal statute that gives the district courts, federal district courts, jurisdiction over war crimes in a foreign country, and again, that would New Jersey's foreign and war crimes. You see what I'm saying? And so you could bring up the issue of bring it into federal court and start talking about war crimes. I guarantee you they're going to not want to talk about it. I guarantee you. And again, it's because last time there was war crimes going on, there was a revolution. They don't want people figuring that out. You would think that they would be bending over backwards to make sure that you've got due process and all that, but they just completely and we'll see when we go through this, okay? They just completely ignore it, okay? They deny you due process all the time. There's fake indictments. There's all sorts of stuff. We can't even begin to count the number of times judges, lawyers, and statesmen have said there isn't any common law anymore, it's been replaced by statutes. They'd be more truthful if they said there isn't any common law anymore, it's been replaced by martial law. And that's that Judge H. Ellett of the Utah Supreme Court in the case Diet versus Turner. Martial law supersedes and replaces common law. Causes and necessities for taking up arms, 1775. Statutes have been passed extending courts of admiralty and vice admiralty far beyond their ancient limits for depriving us of the accustomed and inestimable privilege of trial by jury in cases affecting both life and property, to supersede the course of common law and instead thereof publish and order the use and exercise of the law martial. And for altering fundamentally the form of government established by charter, we saw the misery to which such despotism would reduce us. There's no common law offenses against the United States, only those acts which Congress has forbidden with penalties for disobedience of its command or crimes. And in Texas and every other state, I guarantee you there's something in every other state that says the same thing. And under Texas law, no act or omission is a crime unless made so by statute. That's why under martial law there is no law. That's why they have to make common law crimes like murder and assault. They have to put it in a statute. The legislature may create an offense and in the same enactment provide exceptions to its application. Arizona, all common law offenses and affirmative defenses are abolished. NSA takes care of the spying, CIA takes care of the drug trade, FBI takes care of the terror attacks and false flags, Homeland Security takes care of the rest. And National Security Agency and Central Intelligence Agency are private companies. They just have a contract with the government. Homeland Security is a subsidiary of the Secret Service, which is a subsidiary of the Treasury Department, which is owned and operated by the International Monetary Fund. The CIA owns everyone of any significance in the major media. So why is that a surprise? You know, the major media just trumpets nothing but lies. And we'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. Well, their disinformation program is failing. Because nobody believes anything that the news media wants them to believe. Deception is a state of mind and the mind of the state. Have you had enough yet? Patrick Henry said, "Give me liberty or give me death," after witnessing a man flogged to death for refusing to take a license. Two national governments exist, one to be maintained under the Constitution with all its restrictions, the other to be maintained by Congress outside and independently of that instrument. U.S. Supreme Court, 1901. Government officials wear two hats. They can represent the unconstitutional corporation or they can represent the lawful de jure government. Because of our own ignorance, we've given them evidence of their slave. They presume we're their slave until we defeat their presumption. And so my attitude, and there's some people that say that we should, take advantage of the Roman cult Sestake trust, but my attitude is that the biggest mistake that any of us make is recording the birth. If we didn't do that, then we wouldn't be having these problems.
They'll do it for you.
Well,
They'll
and
take
so
a fake name and
they
slap
need
it
to
on
be,
there.
they need to be educated. And so again, that's part of it too.
Yeah.
Under international law of warfare, all parties to a cause must appear by nom de guerre because an alien enemy cannot maintain an action during the war in his own name. A mixed war is one which is made on one side by public authority and the other by mere private persons. United States, this is Article 37. United States acknowledge and protect in hostile countries occupied by them religion and morality, strictly private property, the persons of the inhabitants, especially those of women, and sacredness of domestic relations. Offenses to the contrary shall be rigorously punished. This rule does not interfere with the right of the victorious invader to tax the people or their property, to levy forced loans. And forced loans is a vital force in the struggle for national supremacy. Yes.
Can you elaborate on the especially woman part?
That's what I'm doing right now.
Thank you.
The forced loans of 1862 and 1863 in the form of legal tender notes were vital forces in the struggle for national supremacy. They formed a part of the public debt of the United States. That's Juilliard, this U.S. Supreme Court. So, commercial paper, Federal Reserve notes are forced loans. Okay? In 1862 and 1863, they were U.S. Treasury notes, okay, but they were still forced loans, and now they're called Federal Reserve notes. It's still legal tender notes, and you're forced to loan the government money. Federal Reserve notes is military script. Federal Reserve notes is forced loans that are forcing the enemy, you, to loan the government money. Governments, any sovereign, descend to the level of a mere private corporation and take on the characteristics of a mere private citizen where private corporate commercial paper and securities is concerned. For purposes of suit, such corporations and individuals are regarded as entities entirely separate from government. Again, Federal Reserve notes are military script, they're forced loans, and they were absolutely vital forces in the struggle for national supremacy. So, that's why Trump needs to get rid of the Federal Reserve in this commercial paper and go back to a gold standard. Because nothing's paid for with
Has he
Federal
ever
Reserve.
talked about that?
Huh?
Has he ever talked about doing that though? I mean, I've heard
He's got,
stuff on the
of course he doesn't talk about it because he's got Jesuits that are surrounding him and he's got to deal with all of that. But they say that he's got Andrew Jackson's bust and his picture in the Oval Office. And we all know what Andrew Jackson did. So, anyways. All statutes are martial law statutes. All statutes apply to subjects only. The military police often say, you think our laws don't apply to you? Well, the Labor Code says it all. My answer to them is, do they even teach you to read? The last thing they wanted to talk about is war crimes. War crimes precipitate revolutions. All empires are built the same way. You get 50% of the poor to go to war with and kill the other 50% of the poor, leaving the rich to chit-chat in Senate, which gives the impression that there's real democracy. You absorb the land and riches of your enemies and repeat whenever you need cash or new resources. And so, again, it's all about warfare and theft. You know, if you read the Libra Code, I mean, it's all about theft. When they invade a country, they get all the assets of that country. And so then, you know, like Iraq, for example. When the U.S. went into Iraq, now the U.S. owns all that oil. And so they're selling it. And Iraq probably gets a piece of the action, but I'll guarantee you the U.S. is getting a piece of the action too. War is terrorism on a bigger budget. Matter of fact, in Syria, they were saying, there was on the news how there's a bunch of gold that disappeared in Syria. And Gaddafi, all of his gold disappeared. Well, what's up with that? Of course, that's why they go in there and invade these countries, so they can steal all this stuff. Democracy. Fakes laws, false arrest, feel free. Have you had enough yet? Give me liberty or give me death. Patrick Henry, after he witnessed a man flogged to death for refusing to take a license. It's like you're saying, they'll give you, so it's give me liberty or give me death. You know what I mean? If you lay the foundation and you tell them that they're engaged in war crimes, then I'll bet you they won't do that.
Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein and Assad in Syria, they all are part of the Federal Reserve, not international banking. They killed Gaddafi.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
Gaddafi was, but he was trying to get all of Africa on a gold back.
They were
Yeah,
trying
he
to,
had
he was on a gold standard.
He had
He didn't have a national bank. Well, he didn't have a Rothschild central bank. That's
Yeah.
what he didn't have. Neither does Syria, and neither did Iraq.
Yeah, and that's why, and another reason why they went in there too.
Right, and neither does Iran, and neither does North Korea.
Right,
And
and they're all enemies.
Why do you think they're rattling sabers with those guys?
Right.
Anyways, this is Article 52 of the Geneva Convention. No contract, agreement, or regulation shall impair the right of any worker, whether voluntary or not, and wherever he may be, to apply to the representatives of the protecting power in order to request the said power's intervention. All measures aiming at creating unemployment and restricting opportunities offered to workers in an occupied territory in order to induce them to work for the occupying power are prohibited. So this is all part of, you got to know this stuff so that you can know the war crimes. What's a war crime? In other words, no contract, agreement, or regulation shall impair the right of any worker to apply to the representatives of the protecting power to request the said power's intervention. So court filing fees, that's a regulation. Court rules is a regulation. And so, when I get ready to file my lawsuit, I'm going to tell them to put their rules up their rectal orifice, and their filing fee, I'm going to tell them there's absolutely no way I'm paying a filing fee, and they can't charge it unless they want to do a war crime. And of course they like doing war crimes because I've been there 5 times. So we'll take it to the Supreme Court. We'll see what the Supreme Court says. And then all measures aiming at creating unemployment and restricting opportunities offered to workers in an occupied territory. Well, think about it. They take unemployment statistics from people that have Social Security numbers, but yet Social Security numbers is for government employees. So the only unemployment statistics they're collecting is for government employees, and so they are automatically prohibiting people from, or compelling people to work for the government by definition. And that's another war crime. The term federal personnel means officers and employees of the government of the United States, members of the uniformed services, including members of the reserve components, individuals entitled to receive immediate or deferred retirement benefits under any retirement program of the government of the United States. Gee, that sounds like anybody with a Social Security number is federal personnel. And if they compel the disclosure of a Social Security number, they're compelling you to work for the occupying power. What?
Let's assume that one had a Social Security number. How does one erase it?
It's, first of all, nobody has a Social Security number. Okay, it's a number first.
Okay, necessitate.
Right. Number one, and number two, you cannot erase them. They won't. There's court cases that talk about it. They will not. Once that thing's created, it's created. It's a trust. It's not yours.
Can you,
You have to quit using it.
more than one issue to the same man or woman?
No man or woman has a Social Security number.
You say
So-
Entity?
Huh?
An entity?
Sorry?
An entity?
Well, of course. I mean, so why would you want more than one? I don't even want the one.
So it says there, anybody with a Social Security number is, quote, federal personnel, unquote.
Right.
The federal how can, if the Social Security number is for a Sesticate trust, that's who the federal personnel is, not the anybody.
That's right. Yeah, that's true.
So it's separate.
Yeah, that's right.
So
There's no such thing. It's all corporations, Sesticate trusts, and the reason that is because the government is a corporation that's owned and operated by the Roman cult.
I'm just concerned that to try to understand if you can't get rid of it, and there's this benefit.
Well, no. You quit using it.
Yeah,
You have the right not to give evidence against yourself. Don't give evidence against yourself.
it's not against me. It would be against the Sesticate trust.
Well, if
If you're using it, they're going to construe it as you're
Yeah.
taking its place.
Yeah, in their world, that's
Right.
it's up to you. It's, my attitude is that you cannot get something for nothing.
So if you start
And
using
so
it, you're not in
if
their world.
they went, and it's by fraud that thing was created in the first place. and it's by fraud that everything goes on.
So if somebody comes around and commits fraud against some entity of regard, so they commit fraud against me somehow and they take $100,000 of value, right? And I find out they committed fraud and they have $100,000 of mine. Just let them get away with it?
Well, if you participate in the fraud, you can't claim fraud.
But if I didn't know it was fraud, the whole point is that I didn't know it was fraud.
Well, whatever. If you participate in the fraud, you cannot claim it's fraud. And these people are diabolically evil. They lay awake at night with this stuff.
Okay, thank you.
And so it's up to you. If you participate in fraud, then you cannot claim fraud.
What I'm saying is that if somebody stole or used something that wasn't theirs and I didn't know that it was mine and they took it, then why wouldn't I have an honorable, lawful right to recover the stolen, fraudulently taken property?
If, first of all, there's court cases that say that the government has no duty to pay anything. It's an extortion. If you're one of the slaves, they just take it. It's the government has. There's a case from like the 30s where some guy and the Social Security Administration even has it on their website where they have no duty to pay anything. So now if that's all you have to live on, then I'm not saying don't get it. All I'm saying is you got to understand that there's and then using maybe some of trias procedures might be useful. My attitude is that I have no intention of ever seeing. I don't want anything. I want nothing to do with it. But what you guys do, you have to decide. But it's a contract for sure. And whether there's if you admit that the thing exists, then you're participating in the contract, in the fraud.
That would be like covering one's eyes saying it never happened, and that's not true. They committed fraud.
Well, but what did they steal? They didn't steal anything, okay? It's commercial paper. It's nothing.
They didn't steal anything.
It's not lawful money.
They only take what we put for them to access anyway.
They stole labor
They stole what?
fraudulently.
Stole
My
what?
labor starting
Oh,
at
your labor.
age 14.
Oh, I agree.
So they stole something.
Volunteer.
I didn't volunteer.
Nobody held a gun to
That
you.
was
Contract.
anyway. So thank you for it helped me get clear on where my mind is. Thank you.
What I would treat it as is you got to understand. Remember that video yesterday that we saw? Maybe you didn't see it at the very beginning yesterday
I did not.
with
The man talking.
with
Cliff High.
no, it wasn't Cliff High. It was after that. It was Richard Allgaier, the remote viewer.
I did not see the beginning. Sorry.
He talked about how they're going to implement cryptocurrencies, and he said they're already. The European Union is already implementing digital IDs. And he said there's a friend of his. There's a friend of his that is he's on a pension from being in the military all his life, and he's collecting a pension.
Yes, I did hear the end result of that.
And
They'll give him a little bit of time
that's right.
to
And
get
then
him squared away, and then he's going to have to learn how to use.
he's going to have to, or he's just not going to get the pension. So these people are just thieves, okay? They are just flat out thieves, and so you have to decide at what point you're just going to walk away from it. In my opinion,
I got you.
you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
And so these people, it's just diabolically evil, okay? They are thieves. They planned it from the beginning that way. It was carefully calculated. And they knew exactly what they're doing. And it's all coming from the Roman cult. You know, one of the things that I don't tell a lot of people, but if, I had a dream. They say that when you dream, sometimes you time travel. And I've had a couple dreams. One of my dreams was that when I was in my 20s, I had this dream. I was next to a ballistic missile launcher in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, on 97th Street and 137th Avenue. Now, if you know anything about Edmonton, it's really flat, okay? It's really flat. But Edmonton's a big city too, it's like about 1 million people. Anyways, and so I was next to this ballistic missile launcher. I think now that I was probably there on business, okay? Because I helped design the hydraulic system on the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter, so I mean those things would definitely have a hydraulic system. And when I say a ballistic missile launcher, I'm talking a tractor trailer with one ballistic missile on it, and that is it. And they were lined up bumper to bumper as far as the eye could see in both directions. And so, remember we were talking about the remote viewer yesterday. Well, remote viewers are saying that that the United States will break up first of all, and then there'll be wars between the states, and then there'll be a period of time when, after a period of time, a North American Union will emerge, and the North American Union will consist of 13 states. One will be Canada, one will be Mexico, and the other 11 will be what's left of the 50 states. Anyways, now some of the states are going to sink. If you saw, remember that future map that I showed you? Okay, some of the states are just going to be gone. And, but so, and it's not just remote viewers that are talking about this too. But so what they say is that they will, the North American Union will emerge, and all during this time, you know, think about it. The United States is gone. What would happen in the world if all of a sudden the United States was out of the picture? Matter of fact, Cliff High even talks about it. He talks about military units being stranded overseas in foreign countries where they're surrounded by their enemies, okay? And many soldiers not having, they don't get paid, they don't have the money even to pay for their own way to get back. And so they're stuck over there in a foreign country surrounded by enemies. And so, I mean, that's like a really bad situation. And, you know, United States has military bases, you know, hundreds. There's probably 200 military bases that are overseas. And so if the United States was all of a sudden out of the picture, it would be like a giant power vacuum. And so what they say happens is that China will go on a rampage, and they will conquer all the way down to Australia. And that the jihads will lay waste to Europe. And that the remote viewers even said that there was one that I read that said that the Chinese would kill 25 million people in the area of New Delhi alone. And so you're talking like, you know, anyways, so what will happen is in according to these remote viewers and the stuff that I've, you know, read, in about, and I think it's going to be around the next time of the Blood Moon series, which is around 2032, when this North American Union emerges, and about that time the Chinese, there'll be a land bridge between Siberia and Alaska, and the Chinese will be coming at us with an army of 200 million men, and they'll be coming across the Bering Straits. And when they do, and I think this is where this dream comes into play, because when they do, we turn China into a smoking hole, and you can't go there for 150 years, because we nuke the heck out of them. And we also take out 150 million coming across the Bering Straits, but 50 million still make it through, and 50 million man army is still a very formidable army. And now you're talking a 50 million man army, it's going to come down the west coast of North America, and I think it's down through Alberta. And, you know, they don't have supplies, they don't have any food, they got to have something to eat, and they say that they'll be eating whatever they can kill. And so there'll be nothing left alive in their path. And they'll come down through Alberta, and my brother had a dream about that. And his sister, actually, not his sister, my brother's wife, my sister-in-law, had a dream. And she said, they live in Alberta. She said that they saw the red glow on the horizon. Okay, remember when we went into Iraq, there was a red glow on the horizon. They said they saw the red glow on the horizon, and they knew they were coming. They didn't know who they were, but they knew they were coming. and they had prepared a cave with provisions and that they could go to. And so they went to their friends and said, "Come on, you guys, let's go." And it's time. And they were lollygagging around and not taking it seriously and all the rest of it. So they just went. And they were on horseback. And so they got horses. They went cross country with their horses. And they said that there was traffic jams and stuff all over the place, but they were on horseback, so they just went cross country to their cave. They went to the cave, they sealed it up, went inside with their horses and sealed up the opening, and camouflaged it, and they waited. And then she said that after a while they started hearing explosions and all sorts of commotion outside, and then it went silent, and then it started to stink really bad, and then winter set in. And then they came out of the cave in the spring, and everybody was gone. So, and they say that the Chinese, the last great battle, which could be called the Battle of Armageddon, will happen in Denver, which will be the capital of the North American Union. And they say that Denver is like a big plane, and that it'll be fought mostly by women on our side, because most of the men will be gone. So, for what that's worth. Anyways, I don't know. I think that I was, there on business with those ballistic missile launchers. And if it was up to me, I don't know if it will be or not. And I don't know, I'll probably cut this out of the YouTube video. Because if it was me, and I was next to some ballistic missile launchers that have like 10 warheads on each one, I'd send one over to the Vatican and the Buckingham Palace and Balmoral Palace and make sure that they got turned into smoking holes. And then the first thing I'd say, yeah, I did it. I thought they wanted to do a commercial transaction. Anyways, for what that's worth, I'll have to cut this out of there because I don't want everybody knowing this. So, anyways, the Social Security number, these people are evil, and I don't know, I can't tell you what you should do. If it was me, I wouldn't rely on it. I don't plan on ever collecting any of it. I don't want it. I want nothing to do with it. But I also understand that there's people who have worked all their life, and that's all they have. And so, I can't tell you, that you should live in a cardboard box and not collect Social Security, because if I was in that situation, I'd probably collect it, quite frankly. But I'm not in that situation yet, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure I'm not in that position. So, that's all I can tell you. But and also with TRIA's procedures, you might be able to deal with it in such a way that you keep yourself separate from that thing. And I'm looking forward to seeing what she's got to say, because I think there's ways that you can deal with it. But again, I've done accepted for value, and it kind of worked. But my attitude is...
What does that mean, kind of work? Kinda.
Well...
Kinda, like, it didn't work?
Well, I can show you a letter I sent to Citibank over some credit cards. I had, it's like 3 credit cards with $15,000 each on each one, right? So that's like $50,000. And I sent them a letter, and I said, it's a 4-page letter. I can show you the letter. And I said basically that, you guys have already made a bunch of money off of this. You've securitized the application, and every time I do it, I create the money, and then you're leveraging it by 30 times, and so you're not hurting over this thing. And I said, but now basically I was at a point that I didn't have the money, sort of thing. I was out of work. I've been out of work for a while, and so So I basically told them that it was about a 4-page letter. I told them that these Federal Reserve notes are bills of credit drawn on the Federal Reserve Bank, bills of United States credit drawn on the Federal Reserve Bank. So go collect it from the United States. You know, number one, I told them, and I said, number two, there was a couple things I said that you didn't loan anything anyways, and I can prove it with these 150, 160 questions that if push comes to shove and we go to court, that I'm going to bring up. And I said, so you have two choices. I said, you can either zero out the account and I'll run it up again, or B, you can just close the account. Either way, I don't want to hear from you or your liars. And I said, and if you do anything, I'll sue you for assault or fraud, extortion, you know, a bunch of things. And I said, finally, I don't want to hear from one of your bar members, your lying, thieving bar members. And I said, either zero out the account or close the account. And you'd have to look at the letter. It's only 4 pages long. It was quite short. It had some citations and stuff in it. And anyway, so what they did was and I told them, oh, don't forget that you don't do anything to damage the credit report, because if you do, I'll sue you, okay, for fraud, extortion, theft, etc., etc. Anyways, they never did damage the credit report. They did harass me a little bit. Actually, what they did is they turned it over to the third-party debt collectors. And so, you know, whoop-de-doo, you know. But they didn't damage the credit report. The credit report never got damaged over those ones. And it basically all eventually went away.
So, because I asked so from learning from you, and the thing about the loans set me off so, like, for 3 weeks, I probably didn't even know how to live as a human being. I was so pissed off. No, like, seriously. Just driving to work every day and looking at every house. It just, I mean, literally, I
know,
it's
enough to piss off the Pope. Right?
So then I remember, I hear you talk about Aid of Thieves. I was just start looking into this. Well, shit. By golly, let me try this, you know? So I tried. Now, I remember yesterday I was talking about that letter that they had sent me. I said, well, maybe this is a perfect opportunity. So I kind of took the bill that they sent me and I turned it into a money order and I shot it over to the IRS, which, from the person I was hearing the information from, that's the way you should go about it. Now, I'll tell you, that bank was sending me letters to try to get money from them. At first they wanted money, then it wasn't a debt. Now that they're talking about this, at least twice a week I was getting letters from them. Now this is going on the 3rd week. I haven't gotten letters from them since. Now it's a new month rolled over. And if they had bought the mortgage, wouldn't they have reported it to the credit report? Nothing. I haven't heard nothing. No letters, nothing on my credit report. There's no debt, there's nothing in collections. It's just like the Wells Fargo mortgage was just closed. And it's gone. So I don't know if it worked. I don't know what's going on. So that's what I was asking, you know.
Yeah, I would, you know what, let's face it. They're thieves. But as more and more people, there's a thing called equity. Okay? Remember, under common law, or under martial law, common law disappears, right? And normally, equity is supposed to follow common law, but when common law is gone, then equity can do anything it wants, okay? And that's why these judges, when you go into their so-called court, they'll say, I can do anything I want here, okay? And so, and then under all mortgages are equitable, okay? A mortgage is an equitable interest in the property. That's all it is. And so and we were talking about this yesterday, when you're behind on the payments and they file suit for a foreclosure, well then you don't have clean hands. There's an equitable doctrine called clean hands doctrine, and if you want relief from equity, you gotta have clean hands. If you don't have clean hands, then they will never give you equity, never give you equity, never give you relief. And so that's why these people always lose, no matter what they bring up. If the bank brings the action, they will always lose in a court of equity, and it's always going to be a court of equity because it's a mortgage.
Right.
And so, if you want to have a chance at bringing an action against a bank, you got to initiate the action. And the argument is that this thing's a fraud. These guys are thieves. You know, and just dump on them, and you might win then, maybe. You know, that'd be your really only hope.
Don't you always lose as a defendant when you go into court? I mean, isn't it pretty much a guarantee that you're going to lose unless you countersue?
Sorry?
When you go into court as a defendant in almost any case, isn't that pretty much a given that you're walking into a losing battle?
It is definitely a losing battle.
Unless you countersue.
If you do a counterclaim, yeah. But even then, it was a mortgage. Okay, you're talking a defendant is well, a defendant could be is a criminal matter a lot of times. You see what I'm saying? And whereas with a mortgage, there's a plaintiff and a defendant too in the mortgage. But the bottom line is that it's a court of equity. With the traffic case, it could be a court of equity. It's a commercial transaction for sure, but it's not near as much of a court of equity as it is with a mortgage, because a mortgage is it's an equitable interest in property in real estate. You see what I'm saying? That's why they call it an estate, because it's an interest. You don't own it because the bank owns it.
Even if you take away the controversy, I think I heard you talking about something like that.
You can, but even then, with the mortgage, it's going to be very difficult. But you can, like, there's a guy, he's died now, so I'm going to make a video about it, because he told me all about it before he died, and then he died. And so, but he told me, he made me promise not to tell anybody. But what he did, he was a plastic surgeon in Houston.
Yes, this is what you're
And that's a little different, okay? But what he had done is he wrote a book about the fraud and the mortgages and stuff like that. And maybe it was more than one book. Anyways, and so then he filed a lawsuit against his banksters over his mortgage. And the judge just flat out said, you can't make those arguments in this court. And so he was, you know, because really the courts are all owned by the banksters. You know, I mean, it's all owned and operated by the Roman cult. Anyway, so the government found him in contempt. He actually spent some time in jail, and then the judge ordered him. He said, "Don't you ever bring another court case in this court again, ever." So then what happened is he was a plastic surgeon, and he got his license revoked by the state of Texas as a plastic surgeon, and so he was helping a friend. He was helping a friend do his books, and the medical association came in, raided his friend, and accused him. Says, "Where's your operating room where you're doing your plastic surgery?" He was in a room doing books, and they said, "Where's your room that you're doing your plastic surgery and all this other stuff?" Right? So they accused him of doing plastic surgery without a license, which is a felony in Texas. And when they had the license revoked and they do it anyways, that's a felony. Anyways, so he said, "I don't know, I haven't been doing it." And so what they did is they gave him some documents, and he went and up in the top right-hand corner, he wrote "accepted" and give them back, and signed it and give it back. And so then he had to show up for this hearing, right? And so he goes in for the hearing, and he goes up to the lawyers, and he said, "Do you guys want to negotiate some sort of settlement on this?" And they wouldn't even talk to him. And so he goes into the hearing, and the judge right off the bat starts saying, "You did this, and you did that, and you did this, and you did that," just accusing him of all sorts of stuff. None of it was true. And he says, "So now, do you have anything to say for yourself?" And he said this. He said, none of the facts are in dispute. He said, and I reserve all my rights without prejudice. What else did he say? He said, none of the facts are in dispute, and I reserve all my rights without prejudice. And there was one other thing he
There
said.
was one other thing, yeah. It's in your Texas information share.
Did he hand over his birth certificate?
Can't remember. Was it in my Texas one?
Yeah. You're like standing at a podium.
Oh, yeah. None of the facts are in dispute. I reserve all my rights without prejudice. Oh, that's what he said. He said, huh?
The settle and close.
No. He said, I'm here by special appearance and not general appearance. He said, I'm here by special appearance and not general appearance. He said, none of the facts are in dispute. And he said, I reserve all my rights without prejudice. And that's all he said. He shut up. And what happened was the judge looks at the prosecutors and he says, so what do you guys got this guy in here for? And the judge's demeanor changed completely. Okay? Said, looks at the prosecutors and says, what do you guys got this guy in here for? And so then they said, well, that this happened and all of that. And then they said, well, actually, they said they didn't know, actually, if I remember right. And he says, I'm going to adjourn for 15 minutes. You can call your office and find out what's going on here. And so then he adjourned for 15 minutes, recessed, I should say, for 15 minutes, and they all came back, and the liars didn't have anything going on. They couldn't tell him anything. Okay, and so then he starts tearing the strip off the lawyers, and he says, you ever bring this man in my court again, and I'll have your bar card, and you'll never practice law again. And that was it.
Okay, but that wasn't for an equitable thing.
That was over. You know, it was over. I mean, it was over a previous order, right? And they were going after him for practicing law or not practicing law. It was practicing medicine without a license. You see what I'm saying? And he wasn't, but they just make it up. So you can never dispute the facts because it creates a controversy. See what I'm saying? In their commercial courts, all our courts are commercial. That's why I don't go in there, because I'm not interested in. All our courts are commercial.
Special appearance, not general.
That's how you get
You say
the court
special, you
jurisdiction
show
by
up as
creating
man.
controversy.
Exactly.
The other thing
If you
is
say
in the notice of special appearance, did he say how he was appearing?
He said, I'm here by special appearance, not general appearance.
Okay, but did he say, I'm here as man or anything like that? Or
No, that's it. No,
The
that's it.
special appearance means you're there as a man, right? You're
Well,
not
it's-
there as named.
It's there to answer the charges, right? That's it. He actually did go into commerce, and he was he actually what he did, and I think that maybe his death wasn't necessarily an accident, because he brought an action against some people in Houston and he got a judgment from a common law court for it was hundreds of millions of dollars. And I don't know how much it was. I'm thinking it was about 400 million or something like that. Because what had happened is he had what happened was in this case where he was before this judge, right? When he lost that case and they kicked him out of there and ordered him not to bring an action into that court again. Well, he was a plastic surgeon, and he had an office that he had leased, and he had done all sorts of work to remodel it and get it the way he wanted it so that he could practice plastic surgery. And he got there, and the owner of the office locked him out and had heard about this case and locked him out and refused to let him in there and leased it out to somebody else. And so he was suing that owner for breach of contract because he had spent probably $50,000, $60,000 fixing this place up the way he wanted it, and he had a lease, and so he'd been damaged to the tune of millions, and they just it was breach of contract on the part of this owner, and but they just they'd heard about his court case, and they went and locked him out and just ignored it, and so he won. He got a common law judgment against him, and then he died mysteriously. Died one night in his sleep. I don't know what's up with that. I think it's kind of like mysterious.
Yes, peculiar.
Anyways,
Elaine, do you know approximately what year that was in, that gentleman went to court? Any special appearance?
We talked
I would
about
say it's
that.
probably within the last couple of years, because he died like maybe a month ago or two at the most. Yeah, he got his common law judgment. This is all really recent. So, anyways, so let's keep going here. Filing fees are a regulation. Court rules are a regulation. By turning on their emergency lights, they're terrorizing you. Okay, these are all war crimes. Coercing information from you or from a third party is a war crime, and if they go to Facebook and get information about you, that's a third party. And if you don't authorize the release of the information, then it's coercing, right? I mean, I just call it that and let them prove it's not. You know what I mean? When they coerce a date of birth from you, they're compelling you to work for the occupying power because it's all associated with the Social Security number. It's a war crime. When they use their regulations to deny you justice, it's a war crime. This is Article 27 of the Geneva Convention. Protected persons are entitled in all circumstances to respect for their persons, their honor, their family rights, their religious convictions and practices, and their manners and customs, without prejudice to the provisions related to their state of health, age, and sex. All protected persons shall be treated with the same consideration by the party to the conflict in whose power they are, without any adverse distinction based in particular on race, religion, or political opinion. If they start calling you a sovereign citizen, that's a war crime. That's your political opinion. When they stop you because you have your own plates on your vehicle that are not their government-issued plates, they're persecuting you for your political opinion. And furthermore, it's consumer goods. There's court cases that talk about it. Your vehicle is consumer goods. When they drag you into their kangaroo court, they're subjecting you to their satanic religious ceremony. This is another one for the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. This is Sheriff Sam Page in North Carolina. I've learned more on constitutional law in one day here at this convention than I have in my 15 years as a sheriff. It's a pretty sad state of affairs when a sheriff, after being in office for 15 years, says, "Oh, I just learned a whole bunch of new stuff about my job." What's up with that? So we need to educate our sheriffs. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow me on Steemit and Sovereignty International. Don't forget to like this video on YouTube. Don't forget to click the bell next to the subscribe button so you're notified when there's a new upload. And on Steemit, don't forget to vote and make your comments. There's the front page of my channel. The subscribe button's clicked because it's not red. The bell is not clicked. The arrow's pointing at the bell because it would look like it's vibrating if it was. Article 2 of the Geneva Convention. The present convention shall apply to all cases of declared war or of any other armed conflict which may arise. When that cop stops you, he's armed. That's an armed conflict. Think about it. Even if the state of war is not recognized by one of them, the convention shall apply to all cases of partial or total occupation of the territory. That's Article 2 of the Geneva Convention. When that pig stops you with his emergency lights, he's armed. He's wearing a military uniform with military rank insignia. It is an armed conflict, whether you recognize it or not. The fact that he stopped you is proof that he's accusing you of being a subject. A mixed war is one which is made on one side by public authority and the other side by mere private persons. The occupying power shall be bound for the duration of the occupation to the extent that such power exercises the function of government in such territory by the provisions of the following articles of the present convention. And there's a bunch of them. There's probably about 30 there, I'd say, or maybe 40. And that's Article 6 of the Geneva Convention. Article 44 of the Libra Code, we already read that, so I'll just skip that. This is Article 33 of the Geneva Convention. Collective penalties, likewise all measures of intimidation or of terrorism are prohibited, okay? So they're terrorists. So you got to start accusing them of the war crimes, right? Military uniforms are designed to be intimidating. The carrying guns by their code enforcers is intimidating, especially if they have laws preventing you from owning guns, like here in New Jersey. If you can't have a gun to defend yourself, then it's terrorism. They have guns. If the pig yells at you because you're not cooperating, it's threatening and intimidating. Their uniforms and vehicle colors and paint scheme are designed to be threatening and intimidating. No protected person may be punished for an offense he or she has not personally committed. Collective penalties, likewise all measures of intimidation or terrorism are prohibited. Pillage is prohibited. Reprisals against protected persons and their property are prohibited. They're calling you a sovereign citizen, that's a reprisal. They're taking reprisals against you for your political beliefs. If they seize your property, it's pillaging and reprisals. They're taking reprisals against you because you don't want to be their slave. Exclusive content's available on my website. There's 2 subscription levels, and I accept cryptocurrencies at $29.99 a year for the videos only, $49.99 a year for the videos plus unlimited consultations. And I am not a liar. Well, I'm in an attorney. Well, that's a liar. But I can tell you what I would do under certain circumstances and where to find the forms. So the consultations do have a limit, even though they're unlimited, but I can tell you what I would do under certain circumstances and where to find the forms. The only power that these New World Order Satanists have over us is through fraud and deception, and my agenda is to expose it for all our benefit, but I cannot fight all the battles. I'm currently publishing a video a month. There is some of the exclusive content includes the Arlington Private Information Share, Land Deed Training, Estoppel Certificates Training, Foreclosure Estoppel Certificates Training, Corporate Denial Training, Toll Roads Notice and Demand Training, Invoice Training, Notice of Void Judgment Training, Revocation of Signature Training, Third Party Witness Training, Federal Habeas Corpus Training, Revocation of Voter Registration Training, Criminal Complaint Training. I've got about 3 videos on that. So there's more there'll be more once I come up with more things. Lawsuit training, I don't have anything on that, but it'll be coming. There's also other training requests depending on what you want. Some of the videos from this event will be up at my private videos, and some of them will be on YouTube. All 4 forms, files, and other instructions are available for free on my 2 private groups at Yahoo Groups and Google Groups, and all exclusive content will be on my website, and you can buy a subscription there. So you are the property of Rome. This is your Roman document of ownership, social security number. But individuals, when acting as representatives of a collective group, cannot be said to be exercising their personal rights and duties, nor be entitled to their purely personal privileges. Rather, they assume the rights, duties, and privileges of the artificial entity or association of which they're agents or officers, and they are bound by its obligations. Okay, so that's how they get you to be a surety for their fraudulently created Sestake trust. Yet still it was found difficult to set bounds to ecclesiastical ingenuity. This is all coming from the Roman cult. For when they were driven out of all their former holds, they devised a new method of conveyance by which the lands were granted, not to themselves directly, but to nominal fiefs to the use of the religious houses, thus distinguishing between the possession and the use and receiving the actual profits, while the season of the land remained in the nominal fief was held by the courts of equity, then under the direction of the clergy, to be bound in conscience to account to a Sestake use for the rents and emoluments of the estate. That's taxes. And it is to these inventions that our practitioners are indebted for the introduction of uses and trusts, the foundation of modern conveyancing. And that's Tomlin's Law Dictionary under the 1835 edition, volume 2, under the definition of mort main. So, what we need to do, or at least it would be a good idea to do, is to read go through that Tomlin's Law Dictionary, anybody that's got it, and do keyword searches, because you're going to find out that some of the stuff, that's why the people in the colonial days were so wanting to leave England because it was a tyranny, and it was a Roman cult tyranny is what it was, big time. It was way worse than here. Anyways. Assumpsit. In its origin, an action of tort, assumpsit was soon transformed into an action of contract, becoming afterwards a remedy where there was neither tort nor contract. Yeah, it's a quasi-contract, eh? Get a load of that. These lawyers lay awake at night dreaming this stuff up. Based at first upon an express promise, it was afterwards supported upon an implied promise and even upon a fictional promise. Introduced as a special manifestation of the action in the case, it soon acquired the dignity of a distinct form of action which superseded debt, became concurrent with account, with case upon bailment, warranty, bills of exchange, and competed with equity in the case of essentially quasi-equitable quasi-contracts. Remember, under martial law, equity can do anything at once, and those are all commercial terms. Warranty, bailment, bills of exchange, debt.
I don't understand that equity can do what it wants. Explain that to me. Like, I have a property that's equity to me.
Equity is the courts of equity can do anything they want.
Courts of equity.
Right.
It's the jurisdiction of the court, how they're operating.
Right.
So that's considered equity. Whatever jurisdiction I'm in.
Well, it depends. It depends on whether the issue, the courts, the hat they wear is determined by the issue that you're bringing before the court. And so, like if there's a mortgage involved, then it'll be a court of equity. If it depends on what you say will determine the nature of the court that you're in. That's assuming. Well, they're all military commissioners, anyways. But that's the way it works. Is that what you say determines the nature of the jurisdiction. So things related to mortgages are equitable. Because a mortgage is an equitable interest in real estate. In other words, with real estate, at common law, you own the property. Okay, the bankster only has an equitable interest, which is a
Right. You owe the bank $20,000. They own $20,000 of that.
of the equity. That's right.
This is different from that. They have different types of jurisdiction in the court. Different. So.
But he's right, because that's why they call your equity in the house is the amount that's over and above the mortgage and the value between that and the value of the house. That's your equity. That's why it's called equity, because you really don't own that house until it's paid off.
Correct.
You see what I'm saying? And then it's still equity because it's numbered in commercial paper. That's again equity because it's not really paid for. That's why you pay property taxes. You really don't own it. You're paying property taxes on it. And
this would be the reason why we would bring the
land patent?
The land patent.
You could bring the land patent forward and absolutely own the property. That's true. That's real ownership. That's going to be the highest and best title. We're not going to have a chance to talk about that here this time, but you know, a land patent is the highest and best title for sure. I've got YouTube videos about that. So there's no a land patent is unassailable. They cannot touch it for any reason. Once you bring forward that land patent, it makes it very difficult. Depends on how well you do it. See what I'm saying? And how much of a crook they are, and whether there's a mortgage. If you don't have a mortgage, and you bring forward the land patent, and you do it right, then even with property taxes, they could scream and yell and jump up and down, but there's not a damn thing they can do besides that. You see what I'm saying?
Got it.
Anyways, both in Roman and English law, there were certain obligations which were not in truth contractual, but which the law treats as if they were. They were contractual in law, but not in fact, being the subject matter of a fictitious extension of the sphere of contract to cover obligations which do not in reality fall within it. Quasi-contracts are based solely upon the legal fiction of law. They gotta establish that Roman cult sestike trust. That's why if you, in a traffic court, you go in there and you pin the judge down about the nature of this action, of this issue, he'll tell you it's quasi-criminal. And because it's a quasi-contract. It is well settled rule of law that he who seeks benefits of contract must also assume burdens. Voluntary acceptance of benefit of transaction is equivalent to consent to all obligations arising from it, so far as facts are known or ought to be known to person accepting. Okay, this is all in the matrix. Why do you think they want a social security number when you apply for a driver's license or unemployment insurance or a passport or any other benefit? All they need is a date of birth to pull up their Sestakay trust in their hearsay database. A kangaroo court is a term descriptive of a sham legal proceeding in which a person's rights are totally disregarded and in which the result is a foregone conclusion because of the bias of the court or other tribunal. My contact information is sovereigntyinternational.wordpress.com. My website is sovereigntyinternational.fyi. My email address is engineerwin@yahoo. My YouTube profile is Sovereign Living. My Facebook community page is deleted due to censorship by Facebook. My private group, Sovereignty International, is being deleted. My Yahoo private group is called Administrating Your Public Servants. My Google private group is called Administrating Your Public Servants. Follow me on Twitter at Engineer Win. Follow me on Steemit at Sovereignty International. And I have a BitChute profile, but I don't have all my videos uploaded there. Protected persons may in no circumstance renounce in part or in entirety the rights secured to them by the present convention. So, under the Geneva Convention, you cannot, there's no contract that can give up your rights that are protected by it. So again, that's why you got to argue war crimes, because it's what they're doing. The party to the conflict in whose hands protected persons may be is responsible for the treatment accorded to them by its agents, irrespective of any individual responsibility which may be incurred. So in other words, they may be able to get their peg off the hook so you don't get his butt in jail, but they still are responsible. Okay? And that's where this comes in, which is fines for different violations. And you can have one of these, or you can just send me an email. I'll send you the picture. Either way. If there's anything that's here, especially the printed stuff, send me an email. I'll send it to you. Okay. But let me know you were here. I mean, I get a lot of emails, and
Oh, what's that?
I get a lot of emails. So, you know, I have a standard. You know, I worked with I worked for Bombardier for a while in Toronto, and I worked with the guys that I worked with were from Ireland, right? And so they call it giving them the tablet. The tablet it's a bitter pill to swallow. So I have a standard answer that I have, you know, that I give people when they send me an email, because everything's for free. You can get everything on my Yahoo group or my Google group for free. And if you want my intervention on anything, because I get a lot of emails, I'll tell you. Matter of fact, I just saw one here that somebody sent me wanting help with something. And I flat out tell them that if you want my help with anything, I need a donation. Otherwise, you know, you can get it for free on my group. You know, I mean, you can get everything you need for free. Anyways, so no physical or moral coercion can be exercised against protected persons, in particular to obtain information from them or from third parties. It's a war crime to try and get information from you, right? That's Article 31. This could be used against the NSA, the CIA, Facebook, or the banksters compelling disclosure of a social security number. It can also be used against the pigs when they coerce information from you on the side of the road. They're coercing information from you, or from, if they're getting information from the DMV database, okay, they're coercing that. You didn't get your permission to access that information. They just went ahead and did it. So that's coercing. No one shall be subjected to arbitrary arrest, detention, or exile. That's the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Article 32. High contracting parties specifically agree that each of them is prohibited from taking any measure of such a character as to cause physical suffering or extermination of protected persons in their hands. This prohibition applies not only to murder, torture, corporal punishment, mutilation, or medical and scientific experiments not necessitated by medical treatment of a protected person, but also to any other measures of brutality, whether applied by civilian or military agents. So, again, torture, I mean, I was tortured in their jail, and also vaccinations. There's no proof those vaccinations work, and so that's scientific experience, experiments. Sorry,
So there's proof they don't.
sorry.
There's proof they don't work.
Well, there you go. Yeah, exactly. There's proof they don't work. Is right, and so it's an experiment.
There's proof they're
So
harmful.
smart meters.
Yeah,
like
yeah, no
that,
joke.
that too.
And the smart meters, you could use that about smart meters too.
Yep.
Okay, Article 32.
Article 32 can be used with chemtrails too, fluoride in the water, vaccinations. Terrorism is a system of government that seeks to rule by intimidation. Can you spot the terrorists? Now in the use of violence and intimidation in the pursuit of political aims. Americans killed in 2015 by cannabis, 0. That's why they want to make it illegal, because it's not killing enough people. Ebola, 1. Snake bites, 2. ISIS, 3. Playing football, 12. Cow attack. That's interesting, eh? Bee sting, 100. Police, 1,100. Big Pharma is 100,000 over. That's their medical experiments. Small penis, lack confidence, bullied at school. Why not join the police? You'll get to use phrases such as, I am the law, respect my authority, tell it to the judge. Knowledge of the law is not needed and actively discouraged. Training includes practical steps in how to manufacture consent to statutory rules, intimidation techniques, and legalese speak. Below average intelligence is and absolute obedience to authority is mandatory. Ain't that the truth? So, when you build a case, you got to get the police report, get copies of any videos, get any notes. It's amazing what kind of evidence they'll give you against them. All the statutory citations are provided from Catman's material. Catman has done a huge amount of research, and I highly recommend that everybody in Texas should have his book. Anyways, we talked about this earlier. This is that Colleyville public information request.
Can you go back one?
Sorry?
Yeah,
Can you go back one?
through your rating?
There?
You have a copy of Catman's book around? You have a copy of Catman's book handy?
No, I don't. Somebody else had it here earlier, but I don't know who had it or where it went. I've got his. There's an application form out there where you can order his ID, and he is kind of fussy about it, like he's Jewish, quite frankly, and he doesn't. Let me put it this way: he considers that all Muslims are interested in killing anybody that's Christian or Jewish in particular, and so he won't do business with Muslims, and so that's what he says, that he screens you first, eh? So he's basically gonna, find out
the name Muhammad, don't use it.
if he wants to, Anyways, looking at my plates, and it was it was one of those temporary paper plates, and it was expired. And but under the Texas codes, it's the registration's none of their business, We'll go through that here in a minute. War crimes, build a case, get all reports, all videos, all offense reports, all incident reports, all narratives, all call logs, all arrest reports, all photos, all criminal complaints, all bonds and oath of office for all officers
Can you
involved.
hold on?
What?
Can you
Go
go back
back.
one? Tony, can you send that to me?
This one?
Probably that.
You want that one?
Tony or Bobby, that one.
Wait.
Yeah, that's too much to write. Can somebody send that to me?
You can, I make a PDF of these. I can send you the PDF.
Well, I don't want to have to watch YouTube when it's right here and then take the picture.
I make a PDF of these when I upload them. And so I can send you a copy of the PDF if you want.
I
Send me
just
an email.
wanted that for Amy. She
That's
needs
fine.
that right now.
Okay.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
The state parties to the present convention covenant, including those responsible for the administration of self-governing and trust territories, gee, that sounds like an occupied territory, shall promote the realization of the right of self-determination and shall respect that right in conformity with the provisions of the Charter of the United Nations. So I can tell you that we in the Republic of Texas want to be an independent nation. Let me put it that way. This is the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. All persons shall be equal before the courts and tribunals in determination of any criminal charge against him or of his rights and obligations. In a suit at law, everybody shall be entitled to a fair and public hearing by a competent, independent, and impartial tribunal established by law. None of them are impartial. Check out my other videos: Bankster Thieves playlist, Roman cult playlist, bankrupt corporate so-called governments, bar members 1 through 4, do-it-yourself how not to volunteer for the selective service in the draft, martial laws here, do-it-yourself no income tax, do-it-yourself free mail, do-it-yourself kangaroo courts 1 through 15, Canada Border Takes playlist, bar members and their Satanic Connections playlist. Everyone has the right of freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion, belief, and freedom either alone or in community with others and in public or private to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. And that's Article 18. Article 71 of the Geneva Convention. No sentence shall be pronounced by the competent courts of the occupying power except after a regular trial. Well, when the judge is a bought and paid for clerk, when they deny due process, that's a violation of this article, of Article 71. It's not a regular trial. It's a fundamental right of a party to have a neutral and detached judge preside over judicial proceedings. Warning, this is the standing army you were told not to tolerate. Order followers, the servants of evil. You assist an evil system most effectively by obeying its orders and decrees. An evil system never deserves such allegiance. Allegiance to it means partaking of the evil. A good person will resist an evil system which has with his or her whole soul. Order followers are the ones that keep the system of slavery in place. Mark Passio. War is when the government tells you who the enemy is. Revolutions when you figure it out for yourself. When liberty and freedom are at stake, your silence isn't golden, it's yellow.
Lexington, Massachusetts. Right on Massachusetts Ave, he stands.
Is that right?
That's
Yeah,
him.
it's a statue right there in the center.
Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change we seek. These Roman cult Satanists are bending over backwards to make you think you have constitutional rights. It's extremely important to them that people do not figure this out, because the last time they were doing war crimes that precipitated a revolution. If you challenge jurisdiction, the so-called judge is required to compel the prosecutor to prove jurisdiction or dismiss the case. If they do anything else, it is a denial of due process, which is a war crime. They're cowards. They're real brave when there are 20 or 30 of them, but when it's just you and them, they're cowards. They sneak around, fabricate evidence that you are the enemy and a subject, and they will never confront you without lots of their buddies to back them up. You are the enemy, and the sooner you figure that out, the better. You are a subject and their slave, and the sooner you figure that out, the better. Give me liberty or give me death, which is a phrase coined by Patrick Henry after witnessing a man flogged to death for refusing to take a license. They were assaulting people with their Roman cult Sestake Trust. And these are a couple of court cases from like 1796 or 1794. Chisholm versus Georgia, it's both the same court case actually. In doing this, I shall have occasion incidentally to events how true it is that states and governments were made for man, and at the same time how true it is that his creatures and servants have first deceived, next vilified, and at last oppressed their master and maker. A state like a merchant makes a contract, a dishonest state like a dishonest merchant willfully refuses to discharge it. Government is not reason, it is not eloquence, it is force. Like fire, it is a dangerous servant and a fearful master. The communists in the Southern Poverty Law Center are responsible. That's the reason they're responsible, is because they're providing educational material for the pigs. And so they're persecuting you for your political beliefs. They're taking reprisals against you because you don't want to be their slave. They're pillaging your property. They're not respecting your religious beliefs. They're terrorizing you. They're threatening you. These are all war crimes. They're coercing information from you and from third parties. They're engaging in genocide against state citizens. Remember, it's warfare. You have to treat it like that, like it's warfare, because that is exactly what it is. Don't wait for them to attack. You attack them first. Make an affidavit of corporate denial. Serve them with a notice and demand that's designed to take away their presumptions. If you do this effectively, it'll put them in a very difficult position. If you do this well, you may be able to get them fired, or worse. Make the affidavit a criminal complaint and serve it on the U.S. attorney. And this is the police report that I got from the Colleyville pigs. And there's another page. And there's another page. Class C warrant arrest. Well, there's no such thing as a Class C warrant. okay? And that's found in Texas codes. This is right here. This is Texas Transportation Code. If the owner of the motor vehicle fails to timely pay the amount of the civil penalty imposed against the owner, an arrest warrant may not be issued. So there's no such thing as a Class C warrant. An offense under this section is a Class C misdemeanor if the offense for which the actor's appearance is required is punishable by fine only. Conviction of a Class C misdemeanor does not impose any legal disability or disadvantage. An individual adjudged guilty of a Class C misdemeanor shall be punished by fine only, not to exceed $500. And there's the diatribe from the Colleyville Pigs. And so if you look here, this is that's why they arrested me, is because these warrants, the so-called warrant, there's no such thing as a warrant for a Class C misdemeanor. So it's just, it's false arrest. Texas Penal Code 3711, a person commits an offense if he impersonates a public servant with intent to induce another to submit to his pretended official authority or rely on his pretended official acts, or knowingly purports to exercise any function of a public servant or of a public office, including that of a judge in court, and the position or office through which he purports to exercise a function of a public servant or public office has no lawful existence under the constitutional laws of the state or the United States. When they're a military commissioner, they don't have any lawful existence. There's no statute. The Libre Code was not passed in federal Congress or in state statutes. So there's no lawful existence. And I'll bet you'll find similar things, in other states too. And I know there's impersonating public servants in New York statutes because I've looked it up.
Is that why they can be sued in their professional and personal capacity?
In their private capacity, that's right. You can pierce their immunity, but again, it's all in what you say, because the bail priest is sitting there playing stupid.
What do you say?
He's like, I'm from New York, I want to know it.
What do you say? Take me to the promised land. I hear all of this.
A municipal court, including a municipal court of record, shall have exclusive original jurisdiction within the municipality's territorial limits of all criminal cases. And then, but we'll talk about what a criminal case is here pretty quick. This is Texas Government Code. And there is a thing from Bedford Municipal Court. Notice it's State of Texas in all block capital letters. And says failure to appear on the above date and time will result in a failure to appear charge and a warrant of arrest being issued. Defendant's signature. Well, a defendant is someone charged of a criminal offense. And so it's not a crime under a Class C misdemeanor. A county attorney will represent the state in all cases. That's Article 5, Section 21 of the Texas Constitution. And yet you have this Bedford Municipal Court is got a city prosecutor. So that's impersonating a public servant, right? And the judge is going along with it. So the judge, it's a conspiracy.
So it has to be a county prosecutor?
In Texas, yeah.
In Texas, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's probably the same in other states.
I went to go meet with the postmaster, and the level 22 manager was there because the postmaster was with his ill mother. Okay. He's acting in the postmaster's capacity in his absence. So he's liable for the same crimes as postmaster of level 22, manager or not.
Right.
Level 22?
Absolutely.
A wizard? He's like a wizard, huh?
His last name was King.
Level 22.
That's interesting. So then what we did, this is in Bedford with this friend of mine, we basically I made this up. And he agreed to appear. But it's interesting that he did appear for this, and they basically give him the runaround. In other words, he was sitting in this courtroom and there was nobody there, and for quite a while, and then he just got up to leave, and that's when they were watching him probably. They were waiting until he got up to leave and they came in. You see what I'm saying? And so anyways, they set down his proceeding for a trial, and that hasn't happened yet, so we'll see. But this is Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, or Texas Government Code. A crime means a misdemeanor punishable by confinement or a felony. Okay, so it's a Class C misdemeanor is not a crime. A defendant means a person accused of a crime. So then someone accused of a Class C misdemeanor is not a defendant. And again, this is the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. The jurisdiction of municipal court can only deal with criminal cases. Well, if it's not a crime, it's not a criminal case. You see what I'm saying? I got to use the restroom. I'll be right back.
No, this is build a case.
Yeah, I think so.
I think you need it for
The thing is, it's like, you know, this could be completely different here.
We're getting a lot
Like
of
all the stuff he
Well,
said.
some of these things, right, when he refers to the Texas Code of, well, he's showing you the same thing from, a lot of it was the same as the Libra Code, because that's what he's using to build the case, is the same thing as the
What's he
Libra
building
Code.
the case against?
Well, he's trying to be general, because it could be anything, it depends on what happens.
That's what
He's trying to show you
that's why
the
I couldn't give you an
process.
Right,
answer.
not every viewer
Right,
is
When
gonna
you
see
ask
both.
them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right, and you're right, and then it depends on what exactly happened. Did they pull you up on the side of the road for speeding, or were you at a park and they encountered you? So you never know what the situation is going to be. What do they say? What are they saying to you? So he's just showing you all the
facts.
Right, exactly. You're going to use, these are the main pieces of the Libra Code that you're going to use to hit them with the case that you're building against them of all the violations they have.
Well, wow. Well, that's scary.
I just don't know how to write the complaint to go after somebody. That's what I need to know.
Like you say, the criminal complaint?
Yeah, like
He's got copies. Well, you got to ask him. He's got.
I can't,
like.
is he got one of them?
I don't know if he's got
This
one of them,
computer
but I know
won't
he's got
work.
digital copies.
My fucking computer won't work. My phone won't work. Like nothing works, man. My phone and tablet wouldn't work, so I run out in a hurry to go get a laptop so I can look at the documents on the Yahoo group, right? Get the laptop, go home, so happy, yes, plug it in, try to log on, doesn't work. Still, I can't get on. I don't know why.
Well, we can't get any of these because he hasn't
Okay.
uploaded.
Right.
Yeah,
These
so-
aren't uploaded yet. Right.
A defendant equals crime equals jail or felony. Okay, so a crime has to be something to do with jail, and only a defendant is involved in a crime. There's where I went and rejected their offer of contract with the Colleyville Pigs.
What does that say on it?
It says your offer of contract is rejected to pursuant to Regulation Z, Truth in Lending. Date it was 19th of March, and if you look on it, it was issued on the same day. And all rights reserved without prejudice. And I gave it to at least in Texas, when you're getting doing the public information request, that's really the only way you can contact the police. Everything else is behind security. So what I did is I did my public information request, and then I said, oh, by the way, here, you've been served. And I had someone come with me to witness it. And
You couldn't just drop that off, and then we know you actually
no,
have
I would
to.
want to give it to someone. And matter of fact, I got their business card. I said, what's your name? And I got their business card. So I give it to someone, and I had a witness. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wouldn't just drop it off.
But you had to ask for the public information request.
Well, you can download the files online.
No, I'm
before.
saying you had to ask the lady for whatever or man, whoever was there.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So you said that you had to ask for the or you were.
I
asking
did.
For,
I did a public information
Right.
request. Okay.
and when she gave you that documents or whatever you wanted.
She didn't give me anything. This was something that I'd already received. I wanted a public information request on this case, on all this information. That's the public
gotcha.
information request.
That's
is the
right,
first
okay.
thing I showed. Okay?
Right. Got you.
This is Texas Penal Code. A person commits an offense if he enters or remains on property or other vehicle or another without effective consent. And he had noticed that the entry was forbidden. I got stopped by the cops, and they wanted the VIN number of my vehicle. They wanted me to open my door so they could get the VIN number, and I said, nope. I said, see here, it's forbidden zone. You're trespassing. Stay away. And they wouldn't even go and read the VIN off of the little tag up on the front windshield. Wouldn't even do that. And so I'm telling you, this is when you start noticing them that it's criminal trespass and you can prove it. You see what I'm saying? So had noticed that the entry was forbidden and or received notice to depart but failed to do so. For purposes of this section, notice means an oral or written communication by the owner or someone with apparent authority to act for the owner. Anyway, so that's like really powerful. Again, I don't know if your state has something like that. This is also the Colleyville response to their threat. Because I rejected their offer of contract, they had to get me back in. You see what I'm saying? So they sent this, and if you look at it's got a thread in it, because it says if you're not present on the date and time specified above, a failure to appear charge and warrant will be issued for your arrest. And this is mail fraud. I should say it's threatening mail under Title 18 United States Code Section 876. Whoever with intent to extort from any person any money or other thing of value so deposits or causes to be delivered as aforesaid any communication containing any threat. Whoever so deposits or cause to be delivered as aforesaid any communication, well, that C wouldn't apply, but whoever with intent to extort from any money or other thing of value causes, so A or B would probably be the best one. Any communication containing any threat to kidnap any person, any threat to injure the person or of the addressee or of another shall be fined. So what they did was they actually changed it, because they actually sent another letter after that, and it didn't have, it said it different. Most of the cities in Texas, they say you may be, arrest warrant may be issued. It doesn't say it will be issued. This one says it will be. And so, you know, that's a threat. What I did was I sent it back with this. Now, I've developed, what I've done is I've added this on here. There's no such person at this address, so that's basically telling them don't send anything back. And if you do, it's mail fraud. And so we'll see what happens there. Because sometimes when I sent this, sometimes they send stuff again. Sometimes they don't. It stopped a lot of them, but there was some of them that still sent stuff. So I want to be able to build a case so there's no doubt, and they get to go to a Crowbar Hotel.
But if they need to correspond with you, how will they go about doing it?
I don't want to. They got nothing to say. I got nothing to say to them.
Right. They're not supposed to be talking.
That's
That's the whole point.
Okay.
This is how I sent it with 6 cents postage.
Why did you block in her name? Usually we would block out our name. That's how Ted does it. He doesn't block out.
This is actually, well, I don't know. This is, I probably got it from something I got from Ted.
Well, yeah, but the reason why he's blocking out our name is for,
The four corner rule, right?
maybe it's the address. He changes it all the time.
Yeah, he does.
What is the 4-corner rule? Anything in the box isn't there, right?
But
Right.
because it's an official, I don't
That's
think I
all
would
that
block
is,
it
right?
out, because that's taking
Doesn't
it
hurt
away
anything
from the
with the
address,
four corners.
taking
Oh,
it
anything
out,
with
you can't see it.
Well,
I would want it to be part of
But it
that.
would have to be in a box.
For me, that's how I'm.
With the page.
the name on the return address is in square brackets, right?
Well, no, I'm talking about her.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Was there a
I know.
sticker they just peeled and glued back on there?
No, I just printed it. I used my printer.
Yeah, that's
I
what
printed
Ted does.
it in blue ink.
He uses printer.
Maybe.
No, she's talking about Karen.
Karen Randall,
I know.
I don't think I
I know.
would box that in.
You know,
Maybe he's putting her in.
it takes it off the page, is what it does.
Right, it
There's nothing
eliminates it,
there.
it's like it can't be seen.
Right.
Yeah.
But for her, I would probably want to.
Takes it off, right? In the
I don't
box.
know. It's the Word file I use, so I've been using it like that for a while, and it's probably something that I got from Ted. You know.
Is your
But
name
doing
box?
it like that be
No,
be
it's-
indicating
well,
that
yeah, because
he's
it's-
sending it to her in her private
Forms in a
capacity
box, right?
actually.
So there's a
that's
page
what
and there's a
the court actually
box,
get to her.
and the whole thing's in that thing.
Um,
and then
I
in
wouldn't
that
say
box,
so.
little boxes. Right.
This is, in this case, I had asked for the videos of when I was in their jail because they were torturing me in there, and I wanted to have a record so that I could file a criminal complaint against them. And what they said basically is that they were sending a letter to the Attorney General because they didn't want to release the information because they were concerned about security at the jail. And so, please note the requester appears to be an alleged suspect named in the attached report. Please note the requester initially requested certain information. The city has released responsive information pertaining to the requester. However, and this is a letter from liars too. This is liars that have sent this. A release at the bottom, a release of the information would interfere with law enforcement, and that release would reveal locations of security cameras in the jail facility where criminals are held after release. These cameras are in place for the safety of law enforcement personnel and the inmates. Release of the videos and thus the location of the security cameras in the jail would permit the public to anticipate weaknesses at the city police department's jail and avoid detection. So, anyways, so they don't want to release the videos because the videos also have evidence of their torture. Anyways,
They got those cameras all over the place. There's no way you could just say, oh,
yeah,
I'll block them out.
yeah, no joke, yeah, really. I think some of them might be fake though. They might just look
They're
like.
so cheap nowadays.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Anyways,
All the technology.
so this is the email they sent me. See, I save everything. This is the email they sent me saying that they turned it over to the Attorney General. And this is the Sovereign Citizen Quick Reference Guide. This is, I use this, I basically sent this to the U.S. Attorney General and said that you're responsible for this. And I told him I go through my normal, as the attorney with the rank of general for the United States, you're the highest law enforcement officer in the United States, and therefore you're responsible for all of your subordinates. And then one of the things I brought up is you're responsible for this. And so a sovereign citizen activity typically involves criminal behavior that is generally nonviolent but has led to threats and plots against court officials with other extremist adherents by the other. So they're basically, and then it says presentation to the courts of voluminous motions that contain references to UCC codes. So we can't contain references to UCC codes. References to probate type language including estates, wills, trusts, beneficiaries. Reference case law that is outdated, irrelevant, or taken out of context. Uses outdated language, uses red ink and written instruments, thumbprints, or signatures. So this is all. If anybody wants a copy of this, basically they're basically taking reprisals, and so this is what I tell them is you're persecuting me for my political beliefs, and this is showing that you intend to do exactly that. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to bring this up in a lawsuit that I filed. Oh, here it is, bigger.
Where can we get a copy of that?
I can email it to you. I can email it to you. There's more. May not want to pass into the well of the court. Claim that the court does not have jurisdiction over them. Request to read statements that attempt to justify their sovereignty. Ask the judge, court officials, attorneys, and or witnesses for identification or verification of their authority. Present papers to the courts, but not want the court to retain them. Try to convince the jury that they have ultimate authority and should not take any directions given by the judge. Defendant may invite other sovereign citizens to court in an effort to disrupt, intimidate, and or film the proceedings. If the judge calls for a recess to try to figure out what the sovereign citizen is talking about, the defendant may claim that the judge has abandoned the court and claim authority to dismiss the case. Following trial, court officials may receive threatening communications. Fraudulent liens and claims may be filed against the judge, witnesses, jury, or other court officials and their families. So anyways, they're taking reprisals against people and persecuting them for their political beliefs. Most of the stuff is that's normal. That's the way. That's how you challenge their stuff. You know what I mean? Catman has done a lot of research and provides identification cards and other materials. And I used his material, and his email address is catman1@gmail.com. Quit registering your vehicle, number one. This is the Federal Tax Lien Act of 1966. under the definitions, it says under motor vehicle, under paragraph 3 there, motor vehicle is the term motor vehicle means a self-propelled vehicle which is registered for highway use under the laws of any state or foreign country. So it's got to be registered. Okay, if it's not registered, then it's not, doesn't fall under the Federal Tax Lien Act of 1966. But if you read this thing, it's got commerce all over the place. It's got security interest up at the top, which means any interest in property acquired by contract for the purpose of securing payment or performance, right? So it's okay for them to assault you with one of their contracts, but if you don't want to participate in their contract, that's not okay. Yeah.
If the property was previously registered and you let the registration run out, and you're going down the road with the old tags on that have since ran out, and they pulled you over, does that still count as being registered?
Well, technically it doesn't, but it depends on your state. Okay, it depends on. Remember, they're all edicts under martial law, and they hire low intelligence thugs, and once they assault you, it's really hard to put a stop to it. And then when they put the stuff about sovereign citizens out there, then they target people like you anyways. You see what I'm saying?
Well, the other thing is an expired, the contract is still there, and it's expired, and that means you didn't comply with the terms of the contract.
Oh, in other words,
So
in the contract, I'm basically
contract is
saying
still
that I'm
there.
going to keep it up to date, so
Right.
that's built in. So.
Yeah, but if you, the next slide, a vehicle not registered for commercial activity is consumer goods. It is not the type of vehicle required to be registered, and use tax paid of which the tab is evidence of the receipt of the tax. And this is Uniform Commercial Code cases. Automobile purchased for the purpose of transporting buyer to and from his place of employment was consumer goods as defined in UCC 9-109. So, again, when a complaint is lodged by the government for a fine, fee, or tax, all of which are revenue, they're imposed only on corporations. That's why you do a corporate denial. If respondent is not a corporation, he cannot appear and plead. A municipal court, this is Texas Government Code, jurisdiction again, it's municipal court only has jurisdiction in criminal cases, if you read. And so, and a crime is something that involves jail. If there's no possibility they can put you in jail, it's not a crime. A municipal court, this is Texas Code of Criminal Procedure. A municipal court, including a municipal court of record, shall have exclusive original jurisdiction within the territorial limits of the municipality in all criminal cases. A criminal case involves a crime, and a defendant only is accused of a crime. So then, under the Texas Government Code, a crime means a misdemeanor punishable by confinement or jail, or a felony, or B, and 6, a defendant means a person accused of a crime. So if you're not involved in something that involves jail, it's not a crime, yes.
Okay, well, suppose they accuse you of doing something that's not a crime, and they set a time that you're supposed to appear, and you just ignore it and don't appear, and they get you for contempt. Now now it's gone from being something that wasn't a crime. Would contempt of court be a potential crime
Well,
with jail time? If they just converted from a not a
failure
crime
to
a crime?
appear, all they can do is fine you. They cannot issue a warrant. All they can do is fine you. And there's other court cases. Conviction of a Class C misdemeanor does not impose any legal disability or disadvantage. An individual judged guilty of a Class C misdemeanor shall be punished by fine only, not to exceed $500. If the owner of a motor vehicle fails to timely pay the amount of the civil penalty imposed against the owner, an arrest warrant may not be issued to the owner. And then an offense under this section is a Class C misdemeanor if the offense for which the actor's appearance is required is punishable by fine only.
That's Texas, you gotta find those.
This is all Texas stuff, that's
Well,
right.
in either case, there's no crime because there's no victim.
That's right. Well, that
It's
too.
not a crime.
That too. This is Texas Transportation Code. This chapter applies to a motor vehicle owned by the state or political subdivision of the state. And so, and then, and that's in 501, and 502 says a political subdivision of the state may not require the owner of a motor vehicle to register the vehicle or pay the motor vehicle registration fee. So, the registration's none of their damn business, really, if you think about it. You see what I'm saying?
Except
could
in
also-
his situation, he had already registered it, made a contract to be in commerce.
There's
Well,
only one thing though.
Maybe,
There's
but
no-
again, it depends on the state edicts under martial law. If they're like this, then you could argue that it's none of their damn business.
Well, how
But-
about the contract not giving full
It
disclosure to
depends.
start with?
Huh?
How about the contract not having
You're
full
still gonna have to
disclosure
say
to start
something.
with?
You're still gonna have to write something.
Well,
to
that's
that.
true. The best way to do it, okay, is to buy the vehicle brand spanking new, tell them you're gonna take it out of state, and in Texas, in order to tell them you're gonna take it out of state, you have to have a out-of-state address. Now, I have, or I should say my straw man has an Arizona driver's license, so I just show them that, and it has an out-of-state address, and so, because they have to mail the manufacturer's certificate of origin, right? And so they'll mail it to that out-of-state address, and so it was easy for me to tell them that I was taking it out of state. Now in Arizona, it says in the Arizona Constitution that says that if you're not using the vehicle to carry passengers or property for hire, then it's consumer goods and it's not required to be registered, and it says, and no further actions are required to be taken, right? And so I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is just put my own plate on the thing. And that's consistent with that Arizona senator's letter. Have you seen that Arizona
Yes.
senator's letter?
Was that
Yeah,
strong
It's consistent
stuff?
with that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I was planning on going to Arizona, but then I decided just to stay in Texas. And so, I don't have access to that. But in Texas, it's basically the same anyways. It basically says the stuff. I'll bet you in other states it says the same things, because I've been serving letters in New Jersey, in New York, in Pennsylvania for since 2007. I've been serving stuff to the attorney generals and the county officials and stuff in all of these states around here, because I was living up in New York, and I knew I was going to have to travel in these various states, and I didn't want to have to, I didn't want to have any grief. You know what I mean?
The New Jersey Code in Title 39 actually says that some vehicles are exempt, and if you go and read it, it mentions commercial activity. They've
Well,
got
there
some
you
weird
go.
words. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing.
There you
That
go.
in California also is very clear about
Right,
if
right.
Not,
So
non-commercial.
what I would do,
Non-commercial?
30.
You mean non-commercial?
39.
what
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
do,
Okay, you
non-commercial.
said commercial.
what I would do is make up something like that,
Title 39.
and just have it with you with
Title
some
39.
brief things you can show the pig when he
that's
stops
driving
you.
the-
See what I'm
That takes
saying?
away his
Yeah, that's what
good
he said.
faith.
That's right.
And
Exactly.
he's on.
Exactly. Now, if you can show them that on the side of the road, if they have a body cam, then it's recorded. You can also serve it on their chief of police by registered mail, and you'll have evidence that way. You see what I'm saying?
But if you're gonna use the same car you registered before, you should look into deregistering
Yeah,
it,
sure,
or
sure.
just sell it and
Sure.
get another one.
Well, and he's right. It depends on what the statutes say, and again, these cops, once they assault you, it's really hard to. And it depends on what their statutes say, because I don't even go in there, and if they want to issue a warrant, there's no such thing as a warrant, so I'll file criminal complaints against them. And there's a Texas statute that talks about official oppression, and I might have it in here. Let's see.
And I actually know somebody who runs a car dealership, and I asked him, I said, if I was to pay in full for a car, I said, are you going to insist on, sending in the registration? He goes, no, I don't care. If you said pay in full, he goes, do whatever you want. I'll give you everything. You can walk out the front door with it. I don't care.
They will
As long as you
do
pay
that.
for the car. He goes, you pay for the car, it's yours.
Yeah,
You do
they
it all
will
your
do
own,
that
then I
in
don't
Ohio.
care.
They'll lose their dealership.
Yeah, because
No, he
let me-
said if you're financing it, he can't give you that
Well,
option.
No, I told them I'd pay cash, and they told me they can't do that. They'll lose their dealership.
Yeah.
They have
This is the
to-
guy who runs it. I know the guy who runs
Well,
the place, and
maybe.
he was like, and he's like the
So
center
go
guy.
buy it
They bring
from
all the
this guy.
contracts to. They all bring the contracts to this guy.
Does he sell
And
them on
he,
that?
what's that? No, he's a Jeep store.
Well, they could be saying that just because they don't wanna deal with the hassle.
Oh, no.
He's a
No,
friend of
no.
mine. So
No,
he would
I
tell
had-
me too. Yeah,
No, I
right.
also have a friend who's in Idaho, and he sells cars, and so he asked his friend that does the financing for the car, dealership, township, and they would not do it even there, so. I
Usually,
even
Maybe
called
New York,
out of
maybe
state
Jersey,
and asked in
maybe
Indiana, because that's close by, and they said, no,
See-
we can't let you take the car out of state without it being registered and all that.
See,
I don't
based
understand
on
why.
based on this in Texas, and based on the Arizona Constitution, it doesn't matter if the car is financed. As
Yeah,
long
that's
as you're
true,
not
you're
using
right.
it to carry passengers or property for hire.
Right.
See what I'm saying? But again, it depends on what your state statutes are gonna say.
I wanted to make a point on that self-propelled, I checked into that. Self-propelled were trains. Our cars are fueled by gasoline, our automobiles are fueled by gasoline, they're not self-propelled. They're run by fuel. That's the difference, that's why you use either automobile or car.
so a horse is self-propelled, is that what you're saying?
The self-propelled motor vehicles were trains.
Oh,
Really?
It's all trick
well, they're
words
still
anyway.
being,
They're
And a
self-propelled,
lot of
are
times they
they
throw
not?
those words in there just to throw you
well,
off.
they,
It's
you
just
still have to
trick, it's
feed
all
them
words of
steam or
art.
whatever, I mean, whatever.
Well,
Anyways, this is, again, the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. Sheriff Brad Rogers, I'm not sure what county he's sheriff of, but it'd be nice to know. A sheriff can and should interpose for his citizens against an overreaching federal, state, or local government. We need more sheriffs like that.
Hell yeah.
The rigid two-prong test, there is a fair probability that evidence of a crime will be found in a particular case. Okay, so we're talking about probable cause here. And this is stuff that I collected based on that thing right down here from New Jersey. And in order to satisfy the requirements of the Fourth Amendment, arrest must be supported by probable cause to believe that the arrestee has committed a crime. And there's Ninth Circuit citing U.S. Supreme Court cases. By its definition, probable cause can only exist in relation to criminal conduct. It follows that civil disputes cannot give rise to probable cause. Okay, and traffic issues, like, remember, if they can't issue a warrant, it's a civil matter, right? It's the issue of capias is what they issue, and a capias is a debt instrument. Anyways, that Kaltenbaugh arrested them without probable cause in violation of the Fourth Amendment, and so again, this is this federal case that talks about false arrest is what it's talking about. Anyways, oh, and that's it. Now let me, I'll show you some other stuff. There's some other stuff I want to show you because that's all related to this building a case. Because under here's a warrant, or here's an indictment. Oh, I hope I got it here. Hope this is it. Nope. Okay. I've got another one. I've got an indictment that oh, this will work. This got the indictment attached. This is a habeas corpus that I did for him. Well, it's my arguments about why it's void judgment. There's the indictment.
the state of justice.
See, it really doesn't say much about an indictment here. But it's supposed to be a bill of indictment. Some of them are really obvious, some of them are not. This is illegal practice of medicine. Look, the judge even modified the thing. See where they hand wrote in the names. I mean, since when are they authorized to modify an
Were they
indictment?
correcting the upper lower case with all caps, or just a different name?
Sorry?
When they wrote in over there, it's all caps that they wrote in, were they trying to correct upper lowercase, or was it a different name altogether?
No. It named people. Okay, so it says subtitle B, physicians by providing treatment including withdrawal of blood and fluids and injections purported to be stem cells in treatment of, originally it said medical conditions while not holding a license to practice medicine, and he changed it in treatment of Nelson Jansen and Estelle L. Jansen. Okay, so he changed it. He put names in there. That's a bunch of crap. Anyways, it's supposed to be an indictment, and in fact, if you go down to the end, there's like 16 counts. Foreman of the grand jury. So it's supposed to be an indictment, but it's really a criminal complaint, but it's not even notarized. You see what I'm saying? It's a complete fraudulent indictment. Okay, you see this kind of stuff all the time. Let me just do a search.
I'll do some research for you on the elements of an indictment. You mentioned that yesterday, so I'll work on that.
Here's the Assange indictment.
What's going on with Winston Shrub?
He's in jail. Here's the Assange indictment, and this is Julian Paul Assange. It says it's an indictment.
Alexandria, Virginia.
Yeah. But look at, see, it says a true bill for a person and is signed by the U.S. Attorney and the Assistant U.S. Attorney. You see what I'm saying?
Where does it say it's a true bill?
That's a proper indictment, or certainly a more likely indictment. You see what I'm saying? They blanked out the name of the grand jury foreperson.
I've seen that before.
But the point is, it says it's a true bill.
Where does it say that?
Sorry?
Where does it say it's a true bill?
Right
At the
above,
very
right
top?
Right above the black.
Oh, a true bill. I didn't see it. It's just plain as day, right there. True bill.
Anyways, so, and then it says it's an indictment. It's really a bill of indictment. Right? See here, it says indictment. Now, there's other ones.
You notice it says United States of America, not United States. Sometimes they just say United States.
Here's a fake indictment.
Because that's treason. Yeah.
Here's a fake indictment. This is the friend of mine that's in jail, been there for like 8 years, and he got a 38-year sentence. But
wow.
this is the fake indictment.
What a bummer.
See, look at that. That's it.
What
That's
was he
it.
indicted
It's
for?
one page, and there's the foreman of the grand jury. There's the indictment original. It's got one of those stamps on there for the criminal district attorney, and that's it. It doesn't say anything about being a true bill. It's a fake indictment.
Is this the gentleman you're trying to help now?
Yeah, well, that's when I get back. I'm going to be helping him.
Ask for the payment receipt of the court reporter.
Sorry?
Ask for the payment receipt that they paid to the court reporter. That's the only way you're going to find out if there was an actual grand jury hearing.
There wasn't.
Oh,
It's
I know,
not a
but
true
that's
bill.
That's your proof that there wasn't any. When you ask for the receipt for the court reporter, the payment of her services, or his services.
Okay, well, that's something to keep in mind.
Yep.
So he's up for murder?
Huh?
I see the
Attempted murder.
Attempted murder.
What happened was,
So he's doing
He had-
38 years for attempted murder?
huh?
He's doing 38 years for attempted murder?
Right.
And real murderers only get 9 to 12 or 14?
Right. Well, he's a sovereign citizen.
Right.
Oh, yeah, one of them.
He's a sovereign citizen. That's right. He had, there was a seatbelt ticket, okay? And the Colleyville pig. Remember the Colleyville pigs? Okay. The Colleyville pig said he lives in Hearst, which is a neighboring city to Colleyville. So this Colleyville pig comes into Hearst onto his property where he had no trespassing signs all over the place, and gets into a gunfight with them, shoots him, and then it charges him with attempted murder.
The cop shot him, or he shot the cop?
The cop shot him.
He shot back.
eventually?
Well, yeah, he had a gun. There was a gunfight.
Right, I would.
But it was his private property. It was his private property, and the cop had no business on his private property.
What did the cop say he was there
That's
for?
right, you should challenge that.
Doesn't matter.
No,
It's none
I
of his
know, but I'm
business.
saying, what could be his defense?
It was over a seatbelt ticket from Arlington.
So for his head.
Right.
The cop should be in jail for 38
No
years.
shit.
Right, for a seatbelt thing, you get into a gunfight for a seatbelt
And,
thing.
not just that, but you go on top of somebody else's
Idiot.
property.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
in another city.
I
It
know,
wasn't even Colleyville.
But you can't even say that, like, well, you hurt somebody or whatever. That's
Yeah.
why I went all the way there. It was for
Well,
a
yeah,
seatbelt.
if the guy had shot somebody and he's chasing him down, is one thing.
Shit.
But he went there, he wasn't protecting somebody else's property. He was
Showed up
actually
one day.
violating his
This guy
property.
had a real ego problem.
Yeah, he
Oh,
just
I
got
will show you.
he just got done watching Cops, you know,
Yeah.
and he got on duty, strapped his belt on, jumped in his cop car. you
Fanny
know?
pack.
Oh,
Belly bag.
Shit.
See, here's another indictment against, that's a true bill. Okay? This is the way they're supposed to be done. See, it says true bill. This is against Joe DeRuzzo again, okay? He's the guy that was practicing medicine without a license, right? So they convicted him based on this fake indictment, and then he was on parole, and so the judge in this case actually told him that the facts didn't match the case, and told his lawyer what to do to get the thing overturned. And meanwhile, and they went and they caught him with like all these guns. See, look at this Benelli 20 gauge shotgun, you know. So they had like 100, huh?
They tried to make him look like a bad guy.
Well, he had like 120 guns or something like that. But anyways, he was a gun collector. So they actually turned his guns. They gave his guns back to his relatives, and they said that it was going to get overturned. And they told his lawyer what to do. But the bottom line is, so this is his federal indictment over the guns. And again, it's a proper indictment because it's a bill of indictment, right? See, look at all the guns.
Nice. Arsenal, look at that.
I know, I wouldn't mind having some of these guns.
How many
Well, he's gonna.
relatives does he have?
I thought I had a lot of guns. Oh,
Shit.
So anyways, but if you get down to
That's
the,
a gun show. Yeah, right.
see, it's a true bill. That's an indictment. It's a true bill, and it's signed by not only the foreman but the U.S. attorney. You see what I'm saying?
And they don't have the foreman's name, just initial.
No, you never do. You never do. But the U.S. attorney is signing it and all that stuff. So I mean, the foreman, you might be able to read the signature. You may not be able to. It's someone like you or me that's on the grand jury. It's on the grand jury. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But it says it's a true bill. It's a bill of indictment. Okay. So this is what I'm saying: is you got to build a case. You got to know when your rights are being violated, and just because it says it's an indictment, it may not be. It could be a fraud. And if they're doing this stuff in Texas, I guarantee you they're doing it here too.
Everywhere else. But you notice it just says United States of America. The Articles of Confederation says it will be the United States of America. That's the
Okay,
proper
well that's a
name.
good point.
Yep, but, so that's just.
The other problem with
corporation
these
coming
grand
in.
juries, the ones that they use in the legal system, it's the same people over and over serving on the grand jury.
Oh,
And it's,
thanks.
when you assemble a grand jury, it's supposed to be picked from a grand jury pool, not the same ones over and over.
Well, what they do, at least my daughter was on a grand jury in Arizona for a while, and what they did with her is she was on it for 6 months, and then they had another one.
Yep.
And so the grand jury sits for 6 months, and then they release everybody, and they call another grand jury.
Right.
And so
But
she
here
had
they do it for years, the same people all the time.
Yeah, they can't
The
do
same
that.
the same foreman, commissioner, all the time.
Yeah, that's a bunch of, that's not right.
And, you know, they get to know the prosecutors, you know, they go in there, they
Of
don't.
course.
We got corruption coming in.
You mind
Right.
if
No, it's already.
and my brothers, they asked, do you mind if we stay in the room while you guys deliberate? We allow them to be in there.
Yeah. See, my daughter told me, she said that it's amazing how many times, it's like the cops will come up to somebody and they'll say, is that marijuana? And they'll say, yep. and so, you know, my daughter, she was on the grand jury. And so, you know, I mean, the grand jury, if they're doing their job properly, they won't give an indictment. And that's the reason with Joe, why they couldn't, it's not a real indictment, because they couldn't get an indictment. The grand jury refused to indict. That's what happens. And so they made something up, you know, so it's what it is a malicious prosecution. So you got to build a case against them for malicious prosecution and that kind of stuff. Because if they don't have probable cause, it's a malicious prosecution. I can show you court cases that talk about that. So if it's a civil matter and they're arresting you, they don't have probable cause. Then it's a malicious prosecution. See what I'm saying? Because they don't have probable cause. It's a malicious prosecution.
My
Or if
brother,
they issue a warrant, that's malicious prosecution.
Exactly. Exactly.
my brother,
A fake warrant. It's not a real warrant
Yeah.
because they're not authorized to issue a warrant, right? So it's a fraud. It's a fraud, and so it's a malicious prosecution.
Well, they call it information.
Whatever. And there's only two ways that they can bring a criminal action against anybody. Okay? Anybody is by indictment or criminal complaint with two witnesses. There's got to be two witnesses. And it can't be a government employee. And so that's the only way they can bring an action against anybody. And the criminal complaint has to be under penalty of perjury and notarized. Right? And so remember that one indictment, there was no notary. There was nobody, it wasn't notarized. It wasn't even a valid criminal complaint. That means
verified criminal complaint. That's what
right,
it's gotta be.
right.
You go there, oh no, we don't do that.
Yeah. Well, and so that's the point, is that it's not valid. And so when if they don't have a criminal complaint and they don't have an indictment, then they don't have probable cause, and so then the beginning of the whole proceeding is defective.
Of course, you got no jurisdiction.
Well, there's no jurisdiction,
There's
exactly.
There's no.
It's a void
injury.
judgment.
Yeah, and there's no remedy.
It's a void judgment. It's void from the beginning, because at the inception it was a fraud and void, and so it's a problem.
And that can be brought under the Lieber Code against the war crimes.
So my brother, for about 4 years, we filed all kinds of notices into the case, handwritten, you know, and I made sure he knew what he was writing and all that. And then when they went to trial eventually, the standby counsel that they put beside him, he goes up. He shouldn't have gone up to testify or anything, but he goes up, and this attorney is supposed to be asking about eviction. And I had told him, don't talk to the attorney, turn your back to him, right? But, you know, he was afraid and lazy, and he says, I want him to ask me some questions. And he had told him to ask him about eviction. The second question he asked him was, are you the defendant? We had filed notices and sent letters saying that he wasn't the defendant. And he's like, yes. Then the next three things was, did you sell drugs on this day? Did you sell on this day? How much? No further questions. So his own attorney is the one that freaking got him to confess everything.
Right.
I said, what the hell you do that for? Why didn't you speak up and say, hey, that's not what I asked you to ask me. You know we're saying you're not the defendant, right? And he goes, well, I was afraid of perjury.
And this is another perfect example, okay? The attorneys will sell you down the river every time. The guy, the doctor that got charged with practicing medicine without a license had a lawyer. He had two lawyers. You don't think that they can look at that indictment and say, this is not a real indictment? You don't think they don't know that? And yet they went and put on the trial and sold him down the river. And the same thing with Jim Tessie, that wound up in jail for 8 years so far. The same thing with him. He had a lawyer, and he should have never had a lawyer.
As soon as you have an attorney,
They sell you down the
court has
river.
jurisdiction. The court has
It
jurisdiction.
gives them jurisdiction, exactly. And they sell you down the river.
This is the US, let's see.
So you never, ever, that's the worst thing you can do. Now, there's another case with the first one that I was showing you, that he went and, he got charged, it was with drugs, right?
Yeah, that was my brother too.
And he had a lawyer, he fired his lawyer, and he called up me and asked me to come down and help him, right? And the first thing I noticed is, well, this is a fake indictment. And so I said, I said, well, this is a fake indictment. So then what happened was, when he fired the lawyer, the judge didn't like it when he fired the lawyer, so the judge raised his bond, put him in jail until he paid the higher bond.
That's punitive bond right there.
That's reprisals, that's war crimes. But anyways, so what I did was, I sent his wife an affidavit. I said, tell him that he needs to print this off, tell him that he needs to change anything he's not comfortable with or line it out. And I said, but I brought up the issue of the fake indictment, right? And he gets it notarized and files it into the case. They kicked him out of jail. And the judge said that we're turning it over to the grand jury. So it's an admission that it's not an indictment. You see what I'm saying? And then on top of that, what happened was now it's gone. It'll be in June, I think. It'll go the 180 days. That if they fail to do a speedy prosecution, speedy trial, then we'll do a motion to dismiss for failure to prosecute. You see what I'm saying? Well, we just got to wait.
That's what we should have done in my brother's case, because it was like 4 years.
In Texas, it's 180 days. I don't know about your local state. You have to look. In Texas, it's 180 days for a criminal, for a felony. For a traffic matter, it's 60 days. So they have to, for the speedy trial for a traffic matter, and they always ruin that stuff. And I think what it is they do it on purpose, because if you don't question it, then you've consented. You see what I'm saying? It's all by consent. Guaranteed. So that's the key. Now I've got one more case, or one more presentation. Actually, I've got 3 more, but there's one more that I really want to go through with you guys at a minimum before tomorrow afternoon. Trial.
Just like a trial.
Yeah, I
Court
guess.
trial.
Trial.
That's a Y instead of
I gotta remember that. Trial is gonna start tomorrow afternoon.
trial by fire.
So I want to go through this, and then as much.
Vital trial.
That's right. I want to go through this one and as much of the other one as I can. But trial's going to take over tomorrow at lunch, and then all day Monday. She's planning on doing presentations. So.
Does she cover the Libra code, the first stuff?
I don't think so.
No, she don't do into any of that.
Never see that.
I don't know exactly.
It's mainly about the name.
Yeah.
About the what?
Name.
The name?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. She talked about that last night when she was visiting.
Right.
Anyways,
Never see the word American.
this is that laptop I was telling you about.
Yes.
Does it say the word American?
No, I've never seen it written. You've never seen it written in very many places.
Go upstairs.
Look upstairs. There's another one upstairs.
Correct. But it's usually
Anyways,
on the Secretary of State website.
It's what, 4 o'clock right now. It's actually after 4.
I think so.
Quarter after 5.
You can do an evening session tonight.
Yes.
Oh, it is 5:15. You're right.
You can do an evening session tonight.
Doesn't matter.
Take a little break now. And then
If
do
you
it
want,
3 hours.
you want to do that?
Yeah, I don't mind.
I'll be it. Awesome. No problem.
Okay.
Pleasure.
So we can do that.
Help me
My
too.
brother's
So
birthday
I can do that.
I said we're gonna do an evening.
That's going to be.
Oh,
I
okay.
got
No,
some
I'm
stuff
from
we want to
Massachusetts,
do.
but my in-laws live near Newark Airport.
Did you see that
We both.
Tony is
Ohio.
in New York?
Yes.
You with Sharon?
Yeah.
Oh,
Ohio traffic laws
They
were
carpooled
taken
it.
from New York. And I
Yeah,
have a
what happened
New
to
York
Mike?
Attorney General's opinion.
He had
saying
a
that people who
incident.
use their car for
Incident with
pleasure
the
do
pigs.
not have to get a license.
Well,
I'll
so,
send that to you.
do we wanna go get
I'll
something
send
to
it
eat
to
right now
Bobby.
then, and then continue, or do you wanna just take a break and continue, whatever?
You guys.
If we don't get something to eat, then, at some point, all restaurants are gonna close. If we go too
Good
late.
point.
Huh?
Good point.
We could take a little break, get something to eat, and then do another couple of hours or so.
Then we can do jurisdiction.
Yeah, well, I was gonna do that one next, yeah.
Okay, very good.
But we can do that one tomorrow. I could do, one of the other ones,
You
like.
said you had new stuff that you wanted to talk about?
We
Well,
went
is-
over that yesterday while you weren't here, sorry
Yeah,
for
part of
your
it.
loss.
Some of it.
Hold off on it.
I took good notes.
Oh, you got notes? Okay.
Yeah.
We're all set then.
Contracts with the devil and the Roman cult slave scam are the one's regulations equals slave is going to be
Contracts.
similar to what we've already covered. Okay, it's not going to be that much different. So the one that I really want to go through is jurisdiction challenge it. But and then there's also we could go through either contracts with the devil or the Roman cult slave scam.
Contracts
You know.
with the
Is
devil.
it subject matter,
I think
in persona, diversity, they challenge
Yeah.
all those jurisdictions?
Jurisdiction.
Sorry?
In persona jurisdiction, subject matter jurisdiction,
Actually-
diversity.
Actually,
That probably is too much.
what happens is when they deny a due process, they lose subject matter jurisdiction. And under federal rules of civil procedure, let's find it.
How many good things?
Have you ever worked on a diversity citizenship removal?
What, from state to federal?
Yes.
You don't need diversity of citizenship to do that. You just do it based on martial law.
Use their system for your,
Everything's martial law. All state statutes are federal.
you said that.
Now, let's see. What was I looking for?
You can use Title 42, violation of rights under Colorado law.
Deprivation of rights too, yeah.
Yeah, but I would, if you, I'm not sure where it's codified, but I know there's a statute.
It's a book written by a judge, Joseph Story. He said the Articles of Confederation were never ratified by the people.
Actually, they say that the Constitution is dead, and the only thing that's operating right now is the Articles of Confederation.
Well, they like to tell you they've been repealed, but they never.
No, that's
They
right. No, they
can't.
haven't. They
They
can't.
can't.
You're right. And the Articles, I think that the reason that if you look in the preamble to the Act of Congress that extended the laws of the United States over the state of Texas in 1845, it says that Texas has joined the Confederacy.
Oh,
It
that's
does.
it.
Yeah.
That's what the
Texas is
Northwest
totally
Ordinance
different from
says.
how all the other states.
Oh, that's true.
Well,
That's true.
Yeah. They wanted to make people forget about the Articles of Confederacy. That's why they
That's
named
right.
That's why they named the rebellious states the Confederacy, so they would put a bad
Bad
taste in
name,
people's-
that's why
I don't
nobody-
want nothing to do
right.
with
This is-
Confederacy. In
That's
addition,
why
to
everybody hates the Confederate flag and all that
yeah,
stuff.
in
and like
addition
that,
to
they shouldn't be.
but the original Confederacy was the 13 colonies. That was the original Confederacy.
Yeah.
This says federal courts
Yeah.
are courts of limited jurisdiction, only two types of cases heard. Federal question cases and cases involving diversity of
By a
citizenship.
judge written by.
Well, that's actually there's
Well, they're talking about
there was somebody that
the
sent something on my group.
Really, that the United States of America doesn't really.
That's what they're saying.
Every state is still its own country it is under international law.
Somebody sent something in your Yahoo group, Len?
That's wild. That's
Yeah, somebody
That's what I'm
sent
saying
something
to-
on my Yahoo group. It was a federal
We're still-
act
We're still part of
that said
England.
Well,
that
we don't necessarily.
the U.S. District Courts have original jurisdiction for all war crimes in foreign countries. So,
US.
Texas is foreign to the District of Columbia.
I think every state is for.
Well, no joke.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, every state is actually a country of its own
Right.
under international law.
Right.
Each state is foreign to each other.
So you can ask the
Supposed to
judges
be.
for their foreign
Just like the
registration
European
statements.
Union.
Right,
Set up
exactly.
differently, and they're all
Yeah.
different states, but now they're all under the EU, like that.
And just like the
Same
EU is
setup.
getting ready to fall apart, I still think that every state has a right to secede if they should desire. I mean, if the people inside of the states are supposed to be free, then they should be. I mean, that's what the Declaration of Independence
But
is
that's
all
us,
about.
we're the ones that have to go and do
But
it.
see, the
Yeah,
problem
We're
is.
the ones, we don't have enough.
Well, the
there's not enough
Declaration
people
of
to do
The
it.
problem
doing
is,
it.
most people on the states, or in the states, they're not free.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
Well, actually, they
want
are.
They want
They-
what they have.
Well, they
want-
actually are, because
They want
everybody's
to
been suckered into saying that they're
But
U.S.
that's what I'm
citizens, but they're
saying.
not.
So I-
Because under Title 8, Section 1421, the only way to truly become a U.S. citizen is to be naturalized, and to do that, you have to stand in
There's
front of
three.
a and take, well,
There's
the
3 things you gotta do.
What do you have to do?
It says it all there, there's like, you have to take the oath, you have to renounce something, you have to renounce something else, and there's like one other thing or something, there's like 3 different things you
Well,
have
if
to do.
you were never part of something else.
And any one of them, by not doing any one of them,
Well, most people aren't true U.S. citizens. They only
When they
get tricked into
deny-
saying they are.
When they deny due process, they lose subject matter jurisdiction. And under federal rules 12H3, it says, lack of subject matter jurisdiction. If the court determines at any time that it lacks subject matter jurisdiction, the court must dismiss the action. And so, I think that that is, you know, when you go in there and you challenge jurisdiction and you tell them to dismiss it, you have to tell them the authority for them to dismiss it.
And what is that?
That's Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, 12H3.